Of course he is.
I knew that would happen. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Shebeen. You're probably wondering where Barry is. He just threw me under the bus and decided that I was introducing tonight, and he just wasn't going to speak. Well, I think myself and Anthony are well within our right to preface this by saying Barry has had a few whiskies this evening already, so we're the most sensible two here.
I don't drink.
You must speak for yourself on that one too.
This is my first, so therefore there is only one of us that is sensible this evening.
Good evening and welcome everybody to the Shebeen. It's a Sunday night. We are...
And he's gone. You see, you can't be pressing buttons.
Lauren's kicking me out. Lauren's kicking me out of the room here. What's going on? There's a coup. This is a military coup.
What did I just say there about 30 seconds ago about Barry having had a whiskey? Knocked himself out of the room.
I can't kick myself out of the room. Anyway, we are diving into our favorite whiskey moments of 2023. And Lauren is going to lead the show tonight because she insisted all week that she wants this to be her show. Anthony and I got together and said, you know what? If Lauren is so insistent on this, we should let her.
That's it. You're the manager now. Apparently, that's your job title. You have to manage me and Barry.
Yes, exactly. Manage you two. Manage you two. Keep you two in check. Not necessarily on a live stream.
Lauren, what's happening tonight? What's the crack?
So your favorite whiskey trio is back together tonight for one night only, live, to discuss our whiskey highlights of 2023. So that can be anything from releases, so any particular release that we really liked, that really stood out to us, something that was maybe a little bit different. It could be an event, it could be an experience, it could be an anniversary, it could be one of anything, any of the above, that really just made the whiskey industry in 2023 a little bit special. So Anthony and Barry and I will kind of chat between ourselves, among ourselves. We each picked out about 4 to 5 highlights. So we'll talk through those as the night goes on and have a bit of crack, have a bit of whiskey. And that's how tonight's going to go. Nice and easy, nice and relaxed night. Looking forward to it.
I think it's 2023, Barry. I think it was a good year because I think it was the year that we finally bounced back after COVID. I think everything really sort of blossomed this year. I think there was a lot of new whiskies, a lot to talk about in the whiskey world, but I think there was a lot happening. It was the year that I feel that really the world bounced back after COVID and people got moving again and drinking again and doing everything again. So I think it was a great year for us all.
I think it was the biggest year in Irish whiskey to date. Not just in our lifetimes, but in any lifetime. Never in the history of Irish whiskey has more Irish whiskey been produced on the island, which is an extraordinary achievement. And I think 2024 is going to beat that again. Never has more Irish whiskey been consumed globally. And I've never had more crack within the world of Irish whiskey than in the last 12 months, honestly. And that's down to hanging out with the cast of characters like yourselves over a few whiskeys, over great events and experiences. But it's been an extraordinary year. It's not over yet. The releases keep on coming. But I found myself maybe about a month ago wondering, how do we sustain so many new whiskeys, so many new releases, so many new distilleries? But I'm hoping that 2024 shows us that the appetite is there, that the market is there, and that we're only getting started really in the re-emergence of Irish whiskey as a category.
Yeah, and I think as well, it was really interesting this year to see other whiskey festivals pop up in Ireland, outside of Whiskey Live in Dublin, which has been going on for a number of years. So we had Southeast Whiskey Festival in Wexford in March, and then we also had in March Cork Whiskey Fest, and there's more whiskey societies forming. The Wicklow Whiskey Society formed there a number of months ago. You have Ishkabel Farsha as well. So we're seeing more clubs, more events surrounding Irish whiskey as well, which is brilliant. So it's been a brilliant year. Very, very jam-packed year.
I think, Barry, to your point about how can we sustain it, I don't even see it as being a remote challenge, because there's a lot of the markets haven't even been scratched. I mean, we've seen even over the last week, this or tomorrow, with the release of the 44-year-old Bushmills in Dubai. I mean, that's the first time something of that caliber has been put into those markets, and bottles like that become a sort of a wall breaker in getting into these markets. So it'll be the first time something of that value will be sitting in those markets. Hopefully people will get interested following that and look for something else. So look, I'm not even remotely concerned. You've got so many of the Asia market that are, like, I mean, Waterford are beating down the doors in Taiwan and places like that aren't even on our radar here in Ireland, but I think they're just going to be phenomenal markets. Nigeria, as we see, you know, a lot of the African nations are now going to be really chasing Irish whiskey. Look, it's all good, I think.
One of the big points of contention in 2023 has been around whiskies that have been out of the price point or range of those that were historically or felt they were part of the Irish whiskey community, or that they supported Irish whiskey back in the doldrums of Irish whiskey, and that now there's new whiskies that are reaching five to 45,000, 55,000 euros in price point. And I think one of the things we have to bear in mind in the immature market that Irish whiskey is that there will be hopefully an enlargement of the marketplace, in the sense of we'll have whiskies that won't be for everybody. And may I urge caution at throwing stones, dynamite, anything else at the whiskey industry to say, it's all over, I'm done, I will no longer buy whiskey again, just because a whiskey arrives on the market that happens to be outside of your price point. And I think that there's a little bit of a bridge moment happening right now, where the market that needs to sustain Irish whiskey going forward, Asia, East Africa, parts of the United States, may not be the same market as those living in Leitrim or Cork or Dublin. And that's okay. Like, not everything's for us. Just like not every vehicle that gets released is for us. I drive an 11-year-old car. I hope to be driving it when it's 20 years old. I don't throw stones at 1-year-old cars or 3-week-old cars. And I think we should have the same maybe levity when it comes to Irish whiskey. Like, let's not be too critical of whiskies that are very expensive that are not for us, but rather maybe celebrate those that are for others that help grow the Irish whiskey category generally.
And I think on that as well, Barry, I think as more and more own distilleries get their distillate out there, and I mean, again, we only have to look back at our recent history. Dingle, prime example. I mean, everybody sort of criticised where the price point of batch 1, batch 2, batch 3 of the Dingles. But then as soon as Dingle really found their stride, they were doing the core release stuff. That was down at €55. So the price starts to tumble as you get your own. You're not buying sourced stock anymore. You're not buying, you know, the 21-year-old stuff. Yes, it's going to be a while before we have, you know, real aged whiskey in the market. But I think there's going to be, you know, I think when everybody starts getting it, and we're starting to see it now. There's so many inaugural releases this year that in year 4, year 5, year 6 of them markets, wait till Dunville starts releasing stuff from the Ecklenville estate. I mean, there's going to be a lot of things that's going to change in 2024. And I think own distillate is going to be one of the drivers to hopefully bring the price down a wee bit. Because it'll find its market. That's the joy of the open market, that ultimately everything finds its price. Everything finds its level.
That's right. I do, on that point of new distilleries and own distillate, we're going to see distilleries make mistakes. We're going to see distilleries not quite get it right with launches. I'd hate to see the baby being thrown out with the bathwater. Like, it's a new industry, it's a new category, and look, most distillers and those who put their family's money and their own money behind a thing, they may be great at creating a spirit. They may not be the best at marketing. So let's maybe give everyone a bit of a chance while providing objective, constructive feedback to help them with their whiskies, but there's already some indications of a few that might be not quite meeting the market at maybe the sweet spot. But the market, like you said, Anthony, will determine ultimately what works and what doesn't.
That's it.
Yeah.
You gotta make mistakes to learn as well. So if a certain release or a certain whatever doesn't go right for a brand the first time around, I'm sure they'll correct their mistake the second release or second time around.
Lauren, what's the format for tonight?
So the format for tonight is the three of us are pretty much going to tell a highlight of 2023. We'll say why it's our highlight and we'll discuss it. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So we're all talking about our favorite moments of 2023. We could be here a while. Some of these for the three of us will probably overlap because some of them we share naturally enough, because a lot of them the three of us have enjoyed together.
Just to paraphrase Lauren here, this show is all about us. It's about Lauren, me, and Anthony. The fact that anybody listens is secondary to the fact that we just blow smoke up each other's backsides here with these kind of efforts, right?
In a nutshell, we think we're great. We think what we do is great. This is a plug for Irish whiskies. No, there's a lot in there. There's a good few. There's a nice balance. There's a nice balance of kind of releases, anniversaries, moments. So we're all good. Before we do talk about them, what are you drinking? Anthony, you've got a pint of Guinness there. What else is in your glass whiskey, guys?
I have a pint of Guinness and I have a Power single cask sitting beside me as well. And then I have 2 Dunvilles and I have to have a Sheehy's, don't I?
Of course.
The bottle of Sheehy's sitting there beside me, so I'm enjoying that as well. So, but I'm just chewing on a pint of Guinness and it's quite enjoyable.
What about yourself, Barry? What have you topped up the hip flask with?
All right. Well, we won't talk about what happened before, like 10 minutes ago. But as of now, I'm drinking I'm drinking a Redbreast friend at hand, 18-year-old. But I am inspired by Anthony's talk of Sheehy's, and in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to run downstairs, grab my bottle of Sheehy's, bring it back upstairs, crack it open, and enjoy it tonight with great pleasure, which will be my enjoyment tonight.
Thank you.
Happy days. I might actually, I have the 2 stacks Irish whiskey auctions on my shelf there, so I may pull that down after my first 2 whiskies, which are Powers Rye, of course, and Old Comber is in my glass as well. I feel very smug about having that in my glass because I managed to get a bottle last Monday, which I was delighted about. So that is in my glass. So we'll dive into it. We'll talk a little bit about our highlights for 2023. Anthony, I think you're up first with some of the Celtic cask releases. You mentioned some of them. Where your highlight for this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably been one of the, every year they've been phenomenal, but this year they really knocked it out of the park. As you've got on screen there, you got 48 and 49. 44 was a phenomenal drink. 46, phenomenal drink. It is just, I think it's probably one of the ones that goes under the radar of most people. I think up until the whiskey bus, where I think we killed a few bottles in the Shelburne bar, where people realised what they are. And I mean, they're probably one of the most underrated whiskey collections out there. I mean, you can't call it a brand per se, but it is a brand. It belongs to Ali and the team in Celtic Whiskey Shop. And look, who doesn't know more about whiskey than those guys up there? I mean, Ali himself has been at the forefront of, you know, shouting about Irish whiskey for many years. Although he's a Scotsman, he's been doing Irish whiskey proud for many years. He's championed a lot of brands, and I think one of these bottles or this whole collection should be talked about more, because some of the finishes that are out there were groundbreaking for their time years ago. Yeah. Whereas a lot of the brands are doing it now. Whereas Ali just had the foresight to put the whiskey into the barrels and do it. A lot of them were small releases, and they're limited releases of maybe only 100 bottles. I mean, one of the sets, I think there's only 48 in it. But it's just, I mean, they're just a cracking whiskey, and we all got to enjoy them, as I say, I think in the Shelburne. But I've been a fan of them for many years.
I think it was a bottle of 47 we killed. I can't remember.
I think there was several.
Probably.
Not sure. Yeah, it's an unbelievable undertaking, and I'd look to Celtic Cask as a big inspiration for Stories and Sips in terms of the unusual and the recasking and the kind of search for flavor. But again, I'd always feel that Celtic whiskey auction / shop / bar goes under the radar with many other things because they have a huge market, probably a massive mailing list. So when they release a thing, it kind of disappears very quickly. But there are things to keep an eye out for. I've bought almost all last year's Celtic Casks, like Anthony mentioned, and have found them to be some of the most extraordinary whiskies. And like you said, 40, 50, 60 drops at a time. That's it. That's all that happens.
Yeah.
Here's the mad thing. I mean, again, from the world that I live in of collectibles and collections, I don't know of anybody, and I genuinely say this, of anybody with a full collection.
Does Willie Jack have it? No.
I don't think so. I don't think there's anybody.
I'm not sure.
I know a few places like the Bankers Bar in Dublin. I know Alan had a lot of them, as in he has 30 out of them. But I don't know. I'm not aware. Now maybe I'm wrong, but I'm saying I'm not aware. Yeah. Like even the Celtic Whiskey Bar in Killarney has a lot of them open.
Yeah.
But as a display collection, I've never seen it.
Willie Jack has a lot of them. Yeah, he definitely has a lot of them, but I can't recall off the top of my head if he does have them all. But he has a cabinet, like the bottom of a cabinet, dedicated to them. I'll check the next time I'm in.
And it's impressive. I mean, it's impressive. And the difference, I mean, the colour, look at the colour of the bottles that you have there. But I mean, he done some of the Amontillado sherry cask finishes. He done the Anam Negra, the wine cask finish. He does Banyals. Nobody was doing Banyals. What one's that, Barry?
That's 39 there. There's only 55 bottles of that.
There you go.
I haven't opened it yet. There was another one I had open. Where is it? Lauren, when you were here with Paul, we opened one. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
I've a pile of them open. I've 5 or 6 of them open around the house, but this one is a 2002 single malt, 55 bottles. And it was, this is number 39, double distilled. So like a Cooley single malt, first fill bourbon for 13 years. And then a 53-litre Pedro Jimenez barrel from Solera cask for 7 years. So small batch, 50, 60 to 200 bottles at a time. Almost all of them sell out fairly quickly, as they should.
Yeah.
Big inspiration for Stories and Sips anyway.
And as you say, Anthony, like they do tend to fly under the radar quite a lot. And he was using those really unique, kind of rare outside the box casks before the big brands were, but it just didn't get really recognized or shouted about.
Yeah.
Why is that your highlight? Why is it a highlight for 2023?
Because I think this year was the first year that I think it come on to a lot of people's radar. I mean, you know, unfortunately, we're up in the late 40s now, and people are starting to pay attention to it. And
yeah,
I mean, every time they come up in the auctions, if I was doing a video, I'd talk about them because, as I say, I just think that they've one of them things that have gone under the radar for so long. And I mean, as I say, it's hard for to stand out at the minute because there's so many whiskies, so many new releases coming out, and they've just been consistently good. And you know, they've sort of not had the plaudits that they deserve. So I like to champion stuff like that if I can. And I think, as I say, even Ali and the team, they deserve recognition for what they've been. It's nothing but fantastic advocates for Irish whiskey for the last, 20 odd years, is it now at this stage?
Absolutely, yeah. You know, unbelievable.
It's something that goes from strength to strength with them with Whiskey Live in Dublin, and even everything to do.
Let me ask you this: you mentioned the number of releases coming out at the moment. the last month has seen more releases than I've ever seen in my whiskey lifetime. Single casks, distilleries, online only retailers, bonders, blenders, you name it. What's your perspective on it all? Because there seems to be a lot of releases. Is everybody vying for the same market, or does everybody have their own market carved out?
I think they're all, because they're all at different price points. They're all at different. All the brands appeal to different people in different ways. They all have their own bespoke following. I mean, you've got the Cologne cult, the Two Stacks Nation, the Ecklinville. You've everybody who's following something. But I think then there's people who are out there who are just whiskey fans. You've got guys like you that are shouting about Irish whiskey all over the world. So none of it worries me. Genuinely, none of it worries. Yes, there's going to be some consolidation in the market, but it's going to happen. It is going to happen. But I mean, there's how many whiskies and how many brands and how many releases come out that we don't see the light of day here in Ireland. They're not meant for us. I mean, as I said, Waterford done so many releases to Taiwan. There's the South African Waterfords again that came back. But I mean, even Ecklinville, I know from talking to Jarlath and Seamus, that there's a lot of I've had struggles collecting them because they've been for the Chinese market or for Austria only or for everywhere. So I don't think it is. It's just we live in such a small bubble and a small echo chamber that we all hear our own voices back in, it's a small place. Ireland's the population of the population of a big city in America.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Yeah. Following on with releases that we were a big fan of, Barry, you made a very bold statement earlier in the year that Killowen's Tawny Port was one of your favorite whiskies, not just of the year, but ever, I think.
I was, I would be branded skeptical at best, and in many areas. And I love my old red breasts, and I love an older whiskey. But then suddenly you get this unbelievable flavor bomb comes along, and we were lucky enough last year to release a 4-year-old Killowen, or this year a 4-year-old Killowen with Brendan Carty at Killowen for our club. But and tremendous whiskey it was. But I think before that was even released, or maybe it was slightly after it, Brendan had this Tawny Port release, this 3-year-old whiskey, a peated Tawny Port whiskey, which blew my mind, because as my palate has evolved, so has my focus for where I'm going, in the sense of I'm just chasing flavor. Who's got flavor? Who's got different approaches to it? Who's got different destinations of flavor that we can explore, talk about, and share? And Killowen gets a lot of credit for, as it should, in many different areas. But if we strip away all the laudits and the kind of praise for beliefs and vision and values, and we strip it down to look just flavor of whiskey, I'd struggle to find a distillery that at 3 years old can release a whiskey as flavorful as a 3-year-old Tawny Port. And I did go out on a bit of a limb and say it would maybe be my top 10 whiskey of all time, or top 5. I can't remember what I did. I posted on Instagram. But Killowen's 3-year-old Tawny Port peated whiskey was such a flavor bomb for me that I just thought, and look at it, you can see the color there. It's like a glass of wine in the glass there. It's extraordinary whiskey, and only those who followed along the journey of Killowen or have taken the time to understand what it takes to get that whiskey in a glass, the fermentation time, the distillation time, the maturation time, and all the steps within each of those processes, within fermentation, open fermentation, and even the mash bill of what's used along the way, and understands how economically unviable a whiskey like this is that we get to taste. Like, it's both a joy to us, but at the same time, you're feeling so sorry for Brendan having released this whiskey that makes no money. Like, it just makes no money and almost no financial sense. it's just a whiskey highlight for me. Like, this 3-year-old whiskey was the first whiskey that allowed me to go out to our community and say, folks, that 3-year-old hot, burning, awful whiskey you're used to trying as the cheapest whiskey that exists, that day is gone. It's been surpassed. There is a better whiskey out there at 3 years of age, and this is it. In fact, to me, it's better than a 20-year-old or 30-year-old whiskey. So one of my whiskey highlights of 2023 is the Killowen Tawny Port Peat release.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there when you said that it's better than a 20-year-old whiskey. And I think Richard has just said Brendan is a true wizard. And I think Brendan and what he's doing with Killowen, he is pushing the boundaries that a whiskey doesn't have to be older in order to pack a real punch and have a lot of character, a lot of body, a lot of flavour. And what he's doing up there in the Mourne Mountains is unbelievable. And he has a fantastic following and a great respect in the industry, and justifiably so as well. And a nicer man you won't meet than Brendan, you know.
But and strip away, like, it's easy to get carried away with the trendiness of heroing a small, financially dubious distillery, because like Killowen, like, it doesn't make any financial sense on paper, right? But if you were to strip all that away and all the Killowen is the Springbank of Irish whiskey, whatever laudits are applied to it. But then you just say, right, well, let's just taste the thing. If anyone said to me, look, give me the best of what Killowen puts out there, and I would give them the Tawny Port 3-year-old and say, look, tell me that's not a flavorful whiskey. It just deserves so much praise. And there's been so many Killowen releases. In fact, I tried to keep up with them. I think I lost track, about 9 or 10 releases. I have so many of them here behind me, almost all of them, except a few. But fair play to Brendan. He's releasing so many of them now, finally. But the flavor is there. Like, there's no denying it. It's raw, dirty, beautiful, gritty, and the story behind how it got there is equally compelling. And there's just nothing hidden. It's just, look, this is what it took to get here. We broke paddles to stir the mash in the fermenter. We cried when we had to replace labels or we couldn't get the right. Like, it's such a hero's journey, and it makes no sense. And we should actually just be so happy that we get to try this thing for as long as this is financially viable, and long may Killowen be financially viable, is all I can say.
A real hands-on approach to making whiskey. I actually haven't tried this yet, which I hope to change.
I'll get you a sample. Yeah, no, I'll get you a sample of that.
Great stuff. I think we're following on once again. I think this is the last release, maybe anyway. No, there might be one more. In terms of our highlights, it's three whiskeys straight after each other. So I think this goes without saying. I'd say everyone has either drank this with me in the Shelburne at silly hours of the morning on the whiskey bus, seen me post about it. I've raved about it constantly since the day and hour I have tasted this whiskey, which actually, Anthony, was in your place in January. You probably don't remember that, but I think I called in on the way back from Dublin.
Okay.
And you handed me a glass of Powers Rye because it had just been released. And that was the first time I tasted it, and I just loved it. I think
The Office or here?
The Office.
All right, okay.
The Office,
Not
yeah.
that you can do drinking during the day.
No.
She's quite forgettable. Like, she might turn up at any time of the day or night, and you might not remember that she was there. So I understand that you might not remember why she was there.
Yeah, well, yeah, no comment.
I think it was me, you, and Sinead. I think had a wee sip.
Were you employed by us at that stage, or were you was that when you were in begging for a job?
Yeah, I was coming around with my glass, like, please, sir.
She had her little hat in her hand. She had a small little sombrero, little Mexican sombrero in her hand. She's like, give me a job.
Or wear the sombrero and pour whiskey directly into the ridge. That also works. Just to tip it over to fill my glass. Anyway, Powers Rye, it's on my shelf back there. It has honestly, since it was released, been right up there with my kind of everyday sipping whiskies, along with the likes of Blackbush, along with John's Lane, which I've loved for a very long time. I just fell in love with the whiskey, and I think its versatility, its price point as well. It's what, like 35 euro, is it? 40 euro? Something along the lines of that. Really, really affordable. It's unbelievable neat. It's just It's a rye spice bomb, beautiful banana bread notes, cloves. It's amazing. Such an easy sipper, and it makes a fantastic old fashioned. And I've just fallen in love with it. Obviously, it was something different as well, being Ireland's first 100% rye mash bill. So it was something a little bit different. It was a great move for Powers as well. I know I've spoken to a few of the sort of Middleton ambassadors, and they've said that the Powers rye has actually done even more for the brand than the rebrand and the changing of bottles a number of years ago. So it's, in a way, I feel like it's kind of almost revived people's love for Powers, but also kind of brought I would even say, a new wave of sort of Powers fanatics into the realm as well. So I just love it. It's right up there. I drink it a lot, an awful lot.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
My porridge.
Yeah, we're lucky enough to know we all share Eric Ryan as a friend. And I was at a tasting last Wednesday night. The Aviators, one of the whiskey societies we were part of, and Eric was up doing it. It was IDL Products. And Idea, the rye is one of Eric's babies. I mean, he's heading up innovation and maturation now in Middleton. Yep. And so he was talking about the Powers rye and how it came to be and that. And you can see how it's such a good product with somebody like Eric in charge of it. How it just becomes all things to all people, because I don't think there's anybody, and again, without disrespecting anybody down there, Eric is such a historian of the product as well. He's a real fan of Powers in particular, and I mean him and Dave O'Connell, I don't think you'll meet two more passionate guys about the brand. And when he was talking about that, you could just see how it came to be and how it came to be such a good whiskey as well.
Yeah,
it's it's an amazing innovation in many ways for Irish whiskey, and like flavor aside, there's no doubt, like there's nothing like it in the world of Irish whiskey. There is zero comparison flavor wise in Irish whiskey, but this has never seen a copper pot still. It's been distilled entirely in column stills, made with rye. So many innovations there, yet still ties back to the history of Powers in the sense that the rye is harvested from fields not far from Oilygate, the home of the Powers family in Wexford, and there's a lot of ties in with Powers had a column still in John's Lane back in the 1950s and all the way up to the 1960s. But from a flavor perspective, and you talk about marketing the Powers brand, a lot of people worried about the survival of the Powers brand. I can tell you this: it's a good job that somebody listened when Eric said this should be a Powers and not a Jameson, because there was every danger this was going to be a Jameson, not a Powers. I think this has done more for Powers internationally and in the United States than anything else that could possibly have been done. And they had a great marketing campaign from Times Square to further afield that said, "Bye-bye American rye," pictures of the Powers rye. And there's nothing like sticking it to the man with a drop of Irish whiskey and saying, "We got this, bye-bye American rye." I love it. Taste, price, it's all there. This is a winner for me. I couldn't back this more.
Yeah, I agree. They had the same at Whiskey Live Dublin. That was on their stand there as well. Tom's also just said there he started his wife's Irish whiskey journey with Powers rye, and that's what you said, Anthony. I think, or one of you said it's everything to all people. It's a great beginner whiskey. It's great for people who have been drinking whiskey for a very long time and love whiskey like ourselves. It's just brilliant, tapping into the bourbon market. It cannot lose in my eyes, and I am delighted that it was released at the start of this year, because I have now found one of my favorite whiskies ever.
Great cocktails as well. Was it old fashions? I think we had a glove of them one night as well. Yeah.
Disclaimer: they will send you sideways. They are. I don't know what it is about a Powers rye old fashioned, but everyone was absolutely bananas.
Jungle juice. Absolute jungle juice.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Following on with the Powers love, Anthony, this was one of your top hitters for the year. I again have a bottle. I got one finally last week myself as well.
Yeah. So because it came twofold. So we had that as part of the original Middleton Barrel Club when it was released, and we had tasted it. I've been lucky enough to taste it in a few tastings with IDL, with Ger Garland when he was with the company, and everybody said, God, you should really, put that out. It should be really released. And then when it came out as the part of the Barrel Club again, everybody, raved about it. It was probably one of the highlights of the Barrel Club itself. But then when they teamed up with probably, I think, a lot of people's favourite whiskey bar in Dublin, the Palace Bar, and they brought it out as the release up there, and they done the special edition before it became a core release and before it came to the general market. I mean, again, Willie's been celebrating 200 years of the Palace Bar in Dublin, and this was another one of his releases that he brought out. And I think everybody just lost their mind, because at long last, as Barry said, they're listening to us at long last about the brand itself. They're starting to give it love. It was starting to, we were all doubting, was it going to be sold off? What was going to happen? Did we think it was only going to be an Irish-only product? But now it looks like they're ready to take on the world with it. And I mean, I think John's Lane on its own is a phenomenal whiskey.
Yep.
For bang for buck, I don't think there's much out there to compete with it. But when they brought out the cask strength, and I think the cask strength was €90, the co-release one.
Yep.
Now, when you can go in and buy it in the shops, phenomenal whiskey.
I think I'm in the minority here that this is not a runner for me. Like John, I might be in the minority, but that's okay. I mean, there's a whiskey for everybody. But for me, John's Lane cask strength is too distillate forward for me. But that's a personal preference. Like, I found that I'm more of a fan, I've discovered, of sweeter, more kind of barrel contributed whiskies, and John's Lane would have less of that than any other. I suppose it would be more distillate forward, bourbon barrel driven, second, third kind of barrels, and not just B1s. But yeah, it's not my top of the year, but I can see why there are fans of it.
Yeah, I love it. Amy's just said there that Powers John's Lane made her fall in love with Irish whiskey. Wasn't my entryway into Irish whiskey, but it certainly was my entryway into the Powers brand, and the love for it went from there. You are in the minority here, Barry. I'm with Anthony on this one. I think it's great. As we say, not every whiskey is for everyone.
Yep, absolutely. That's the joy of it all. And as I say, I think Powers are now starting to spread their wings a wee bit. I mean, I unfortunately have the affliction of collecting all the Powers single casks that have released. I think we're on 48 or 56. I don't know. I'll have to consult the Oracle, Dave O'Connell. I think there's a group of 6 of us in the country with a full collection. It is heartbreaking. It is torture. It is all of the things that it shouldn't be. And then they brought out that Powers John's Lane from the Palace Bar, and we just went, I give up.
Tell me, Anthony, at what point did you get into masochism?
I've always been. I love to torture myself, and it's been in me for a long time. It just. I mean, even there's some of them, like Devitt's brought out a new single cask there. It was launched about 2 weeks ago. They won't sell us a bottle. And we're in knocking the door going, and they're saying, no, we're going to keep it and sell it by the measure at the bar. And we're like, we'll buy it by the measure. This is how ridiculous it's getting now. I'll have to open the bottle. No, don't open the bottle. I'll buy the bottle. I'll buy it by the measure. Just give me the bottle. It's just an illness. It's an illness I have.
Yeah. We're all Powers fangirls over here, evidently.
Yeah.
Changing it up a bit, we have moved away from releases. We are now on to events and distilleries. Barry, this was your highlights that you mentioned earlier back in the year in April. As many of you know, many of you followed myself at the time and Alex Thomas, Bushmills Master Blender online. You'll know that back in April was a massive moment for Bushmills, opening the Causeway Distillery, which doubled capacity and really just gave everyone an insight into where the brand is going. Which is that it right there? Beautiful. It's a gorgeous photo.
I think this was a massive highlight, and it got attention in April. I think maybe some of the attention slipped away. There's lots happening in the world of Irish whiskey, but for me, it was a massive moment when you think of the grander kind of macro history of Irish whiskey, where Bushmills has been there for hundreds of years. And there's been many years where we've all, those of us who are whiskey fans, have kind of hoped for more from Bushmills, or have had a knowledge or understanding of what's in the warehouse aging away. And we're wondering, well, look, is anything ever going to happen in Bushmills? And suddenly 50, 60 million gets pumped into the building of a new distillery, which we did see the glimpses of, Lauren, maybe 2 years ago when we did our lock-in for Stories and Sips, but it was only in April that it was officially opened. In the next year, in the next 8 or 9 months, the Causeway Distillery will have whiskey, like it'll have 3-year-old whiskey. This is a massive investment in Irish whiskey. It's a massive investment in Bushmills, and it's an indicator of the demand for malt whiskey globally. And for me, it was a massive highlight because I became a Bushmills fan thanks to Lauren and her introduction, and meeting Alex and getting introduced to Bushmills and what they've done historically and what they're doing. And it was just I felt proud of a thing that I had no involvement in, seeing it open and seeing the joy, the passion. And Bushmills is a small little village, let's be honest, small little town in Northern Ireland that has is built around a distillery, and that distillery has never punched bigger than in the last year. And the hope would be that it keeps punching bigger and bigger. But for me, it was just a massive highlight. It was a huge investment, the biggest investment up until that point in the world of Irish whiskey. I think Middleton launched or announced a 250 million euro investment a little bit after that. But still, between the two of them, you're talking about €350 million being invested in the Irish whiskey category, which should serve as massive inspiration for those of us who are investing $30 or $300 in Irish whiskey. They're investing 300 million. Amazing.
I was just about to say it was a great kind of reassurance for the smaller distilleries that, well, if the two biggest distilleries in the island, Bushmills and Middleton, are investing that much in production, surely the future is bright, and it absolutely is. And as you say, long may that continue. And you did get a glimpse of it when you were up last year, but some lucky whiskey busters, the original whiskey bus last August, also got a little glimpse of it through the gates. It was still hadn't been officially announced at that stage, but you could certainly get a good eyeful of it.
And you remember that they talked about that, Alex telling us like that the whole community, the whole neighborhood had been sort of not sworn to secrecy, but they'd all committed to not taking photographs, not publishing it, not telling newspapers. I mean, it shows how much of a part of the community it is up there in the whole North Coast. But it's ringing endorsement for Irish whiskey. I mean, when people ask me the question that Barry started off the night with about, what does the future hold? I'm going, don't take my word for it anymore. Look at huge companies like Proximo, like Pernod Ricard, like Bacardi, who bought into Teeling this year as well with the full takeover of the brand. So, John Teeling himself is around long enough to know when's a good bet, and he's constantly investing, for the development of Great Northern Distillery here in Dundalk. So I just see the Bushmills as shout it from the rooftops, and we were begging them to do something, and boy did they hear us. I mean, we had the original, and we Black Bush for many a year, and a few 12s and a few 16s and the odd 21s, but now they're coming out our ears. And like we spoke about earlier on, the markets, literally, Lauren will testify to this. We were getting some of the bottles in for auction, and I was ringing Lauren and saying, is this real? How have we not heard about this? Where are we coming from? And they were just coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah. That was the unicorn bottles, the white labels that went to Asia. Yeah.
Well, Lauren, let me ask you this, Lauren. As somebody who spent the best part of a decade working for this company, the opening of something like this, beyond the emotional connection that you have to that company, what does this represent in your mind for Irish whiskey, this kind of investment?
I think for Irish whiskey, it was it was the moment that so many people had been waiting for. I think people in the industry who have known Bushmills for years, have drank Bushmills for years, were genuinely frustrated at the brand, as Anthony just said, for sitting on some of the oldest stock, oldest casks and warehouses, 40 plus years of age, that nothing was happening with them. And I think when Bushmills started to bring out the Causeway collection, it was a massive turning point for the brand, and people kind of thought, okay, one of the biggest players in the industry is back in the business. This must be a sign of what's going to happen in the industry and where we're moving as a category as a whole. So I think it was massive, and I don't think it can be overlooked. I mean, you know, you kind of get to the stage where maybe there is a little bit of consumer fatigue with the likes of the Causeway collection, even the Dream casks as well. I think it's fair to say, but you cannot overlook the impact that it had when it was initially launched back in 2020. Yeah. It was a real flag flyer. Certainly, it was kind of like, okay, Bushmills is investing. We're good. The industry's crawling back.
It still is now, Lauren. I mean, look at what we've had only in the last 3 months. You've had the 25-year-old, you've had the 30-year-old, you've had the new 44-year-old. I mean, you've had all these whiskies coming out. They've changed their packaging. They're innovating the whole time. I mean, they're not stopping. And it just goes to show, look, I mean, you love Alex, and we all love Alex. It's understandable. And the reason we do is because her passion reflects our passion.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's when you see that in, you know, the people who are making the whiskey, how can you not but be engaged with the brand? And I mean, I think one of the things all three of us will testify to, the brands that we levitate more to are the brands that we see a reflection of us in that they're passionate about the whiskies, they're passionate about all brands. I mean, you know, we all talk to guys, and you'll very rarely hear Alex say a foul word. You'll never hear Alex say a foul word about any other brand. I mean, she drinks other whiskies. She tastes other whiskies because she's a fan of whiskey. And I mean, that's the thing that we're all ultimately ours, that we're all just fans of whiskey.
Exactly. I mean, Alex would have worked with Billy Lighton, so she has such a respect for him and for Middleton and what he's done at Middleton. So, you know, she's one of those people. I mean, I'll champion her until the day I die. As you know, she is one of those people that she understands the importance of community in the Irish whiskey industry as well. At the end of the day, yes, you might see brands as competitors, determining, you know, the amount of volume of cases per year. Obviously, you're going to be looking at your direct competitors for that, but she understands the community. I mean, you think about it, Bushmills was once owned by Irish distillers, so there's a lot of respect. Even when I worked at the distillery, people would have reminisced almost about the time the Irish distillers owned the brand because of the great working environment and the respect and the crack and the Christmas parties I heard mentioned quite a lot as well was a big part of it. So yeah, it's definitely a mutual love of community.
I'm going to wait. Like the last thing I'll say about Bushmills is that I have the greatest respect for the brand. I believe in the product. I believe in the whiskey. I spend a lot of my own personal money on the whiskey itself, and I would love to see more. I'd love to see more global kind of cohesion in terms of marketing it and getting the Causeway name out there. And I think there is probably a big gap between those who have heard about Bushmills and those who know what it's actually capable of. And so my greatest hope is that there's a kind of a closing of that gap in the next few years, because there's a massive opportunity for what Bushmills has. So that's all I'll say on that. But kudos to the team. Great job this year.
Somebody asked a question earlier on. I don't know if you've seen it in the chat about why does it not get more love? And that's one of the big queries that, I mean, again, you know, Bushmills 16 to me is probably one of the best. But even Black Bush, Lauren, I know you champion it. It's one of the great ones out there. It's a phenomenal whiskey. So yeah, as Barry says, I think if there's a bit of a more cohesive plan with the overall brand per se. I think that'll really kick them to the next level.
And I think to answer the question as well of why it doesn't get so much love, I think because for so many years the brand was in the shadows and there was nothing happening. People fell out of love with the brand, they lost interest in it. So it naturally will, I would imagine, I hope so anyway, it will creep back. That's what I tried to spend the last 5 years as BA doing. So it certainly will happen, I would say. But I'd say that's probably a lot to do with it.
Was that before you started begging us for a job? Was that?
Yes, that was before I knocked your door.
Every day into my office and
I don't know. I have some begging letters that go all the way back to 2021.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I've got some begging letters that go way back. So, yeah.
I told both of you that in confidence.
Oh, sorry.
Everything out to a community of 10,000 plus people at least.
Can we break this moment and interrupt this homage to Bushmills with an homage to Sheehy's single here? I'm cracking this open. 5-year-old single malt Irish whiskey, the first to bear the Sheehy name. Anthony, would you give us would you talk us into this? What have we got here?
It is probably one of my highlights that we will be mentioning. But I mean, maybe some of you don't know, our daughter Jade, who worked with us in Irish Whiskey Auctions, left us and went to work in Great Northern Distillery. Got a job with the great Brian Watts as an apprentice blender. So when we were talking about what we were going to do for our 5th birthday, we felt that we had to celebrate our 5th birthday. It was one of the things that was mentioned just in a conversation with the team up in G&D, and they said, let's see what we can do. And again, John Teeling, as he is, really sort of threw open the doors to us and said, look, whatever you want, we'll do, and we'll back you. So we got working in the labs with Brian Mongan and with Jade herself, and we literally walked into the lab in there, and it's a fantastic place because you've got all the cask finishes, and you've got told, look, what do you want? What do you want to drink, and where do you want to start? And we just literally started putting stuff together. I love Amarone finished whiskies, so we started off with that, and we just built from there and built the layers of complexity. And it is a real point of pride for me. As I say, we were 5 years old. It was 5-year-old single malt itself, all distilled in the G&D distillery. Some triple distilled, some double distilled, 5 different barrels, 4 different finishes, and I am immensely proud to put my name on the front of it. It is a young whiskey. It's probably not all that some of the other ones could be, but I mean, I just think it's a cracking whiskey.
It is a cracking whiskey. Kudos to Jade and cheers to Jade and to yourselves. Like, there was sweets years ago. I remember in the little orange wrappers, little fruit salads. Do you remember the fruit salads?
That's exactly what I described it as.
Exactly.
What was it? Yeah. Okay, it just tastes. That's what I'm reminded of.
Exactly. I have probably 10, 12 different cask samples here, or not cask samples, blend samples here. And the thing that kept coming back to was that exact sweet, the fruit salad. I said, it on the nose, it's just, that's it. It's all day long. It's there.
It's amazing. I'm very lucky, as are you, Barry, to have tasted all of Anthony's 5 releases at the pub that night. And honestly, the Sheehy's malt was a real standout. It really was. And like, Jade obviously has learned so much and has achieved so much in her time at Great Northern Distillery, and she's so humble about it as well. But like, to learn what she has in that period of time is unbelievable. And yeah, credit to her. It's a fantastic whiskey.
Do you have any of these left, or did they all sell out, or what's the status?
They all sold out. There was only 200 in the auction. There was only 250 bottles in total. Obviously, we wanted some to have here in Sheehy's Bar. And I wanted to gift a few that I've gifted as well. So there is only 250. And we actually said to Jade the other day, I said, what's the chances of sort of getting a sort of top up? And she said, we can't do it. We don't have that stock anymore. We literally don't have a lot of the components to it. So it's unfortunate.
Well, if anybody joins us on a future whiskey bus, I will bring this bottle and happily share it and take
we might have a bottle that we could do that.
You might as well, but like it'd be great to share it with people. So if those, I see some people asking about it, look, come on a whiskey bus. You never know what will be pulled out from a bag on the whiskey bus at any day or at any day over the 7 days. But I'll promise that this at least will be one of them.
That sounds like a plan. That sounds fair. I've moved on to Old Cumber now. It's just mad how waxy it is.
Crayons.
So waxy. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
All the Ecklandville spirit I've ever tasted is that way. It's all a similar profile. Very unusual. Yeah. Right. 100%. What's next?
What's next is I waited for a good while to meet this man because I'd always admired him. I have such a fascination with the maturation process of Irish whiskey, of the wood used. Opening the doors of a warehouse for me is the same feeling as seeing your food coming in a restaurant. It just fills you with so much joy. The smell, the sight of it, it's unbelievable. And on the whiskey bus just passed in August, finally met the man, the myth, and the legend that is Ger Buckley, Middleton Master Cooper. And we were treated to nothing short of a masterclass of a cooperage demonstration at Middleton. He talked about his career, his dad, of course, who was a cooper before him and obviously was a massive inspiration to Ger himself. And just there are so few people, not just in the Irish whiskey industry, but in the world in general, that when they talk, they just encapsulate the room and they just have everyone hanging on every word that they say. You could have heard a pin drop in the warehouse that day, and he's just such a down-to-earth man. He stood and took the time to chat to everyone after the demonstration. And I know a lot of us, and certainly me anyway, I could have stayed on there twice the length of time we were in there to just ask him questions and learn from him and talk to him. It was just unbelievable, and it's one of my highlights, not just of the year, but probably of my whiskey career, genuinely. And I think a lot of people, I posted in the group, Fans of America, during the week, and this was a highlight for a lot of whiskey busters as well. It goes without saying.
He's a legend.
He is
a legend. Ger is look, first of all, he's a Cork man, so you got that right. Second of all, he spent 47 years of his life devoted to one craft with one company. He started working up in the North Mall distillery, up in the old cooperage, up in the North Mall, in the heart of Cork City, opposite the Mercy Hospital. He then moved down to Middleton in the cooperage there. And what Ger has forgotten about wood is more than most of us will ever know. And he has a few party tricks up his sleeve every time he does a demonstration. And the one I love, and every time he starts telling it, I beam from ear to ear, just out of almost pure joy for Ger at the reception it's going to get. I'm so happy that he's about to do it, which is when he gets everybody to come up and smell the barrel. And he asks everybody, I'm not going to do Ger's accent now, but he asks, what are you smelling? And everyone says, oh, whiskey. I smell whiskey. And Ger is absolutely thrilled at this answer because it is not the real answer. It's not the one he wants. The one he wants is, would you believe that whiskey has never been in this barrel? What you're smelling there is the wood, the oak, and it is the masterpiece, the pièce de résistance of Ger's life that he gets to say to everybody. There has never been whiskey in this. I love this moment for Ger so much, but it is a great moment because we all think we're smelling whiskey. No, we're smelling oak. We're smelling wood. And Ger is just a master at storytelling and connecting us to this organic material. I love it.
Can you imagine being an apprentice in Middleton, getting to work alongside somebody who knows that much about their trade, to learn from him, to watch him, to see him? every day. I mean, I don't think there's a day when you wouldn't learn something with him.
Yeah, it would be an honor. It honestly would be an honor to work
would be an
alongside him.
honor.
Or have the crack, or just have the crack with him.
Well, that's the other side of it too, isn't it? I mean, you know, he's as you say, he is a fantastic character. Just I see Bob's comments there. He was sitting about, and he's so humble in it as well. I mean, he really is so humble in it. You're sitting talking to him like he's just Joe Bloggs, and it's one of the things that I love about him. One of the things I love about most of the celebrities, the true celebrities of Irish whiskey, is that they're so humble about it. He doesn't know how good he is. He literally doesn't know how good he is.
That's what makes it so special, I think, as well, is like this man with almost the guts of 50 years experience is standing in front of you being humble. And you're like, you would understand if he was really cocky about it, because you'd be like, well, fair enough, he's put the work in.
He just wants to share the stories of his time there. And I like, anytime I've gone down to Middleton, I've run into Ger, he's always pulled a story out of his pocket. Like, he'll point out, he'll say, Barry, you see over there used to be a few trees over there, right? We used to hide a bottle in the trunk of that tree, and that bottle used to contain whiskey. And he said every now and again some fella would go out for a smoke break, but he'd really be going out to get his little sip out of the bottle in the trunk of the tree. And he'd all these little stories about fellas like storing whiskey in the kettle in the cafeteria, and you were never allowed to plug the kettle in case it would explode, you know. So these great stories can only come from somebody with that long of a tenure in the company.
I was going to say it only happens because he's been there so long. Unbelievable. And when he said as well, I think the line was, I'll never be as good as my dad. I genuinely thought I was about to cry. I was like, oh, this is too much.
But again, Lauren, you've had that privilege as well up in Bushmills with Alistair. I mean, we enjoyed on Whiskey Bus 1, we enjoyed the day in the Bushmills distillery and getting to see two generations there in the room, literally masters of their craft. And it's one of the things that we're probably going to need more and more of in Ireland now. I mean, the cask, you know, they can't buy them into the country quick enough.
Yeah.
They're now looking for innovation all the time. I mean, the Middleton Dargaelic series is a prime example of it. They're looking to use Irish oak. They're trying to use innovation here in Ireland. So guys like Ger are just going to be a valuable resource. And unfortunately, and again, touch everything that's wooden. You know, if we don't learn from them now, when they're gone, they're gone. Yeah. The skills, the trades, that's what we've lost. We lost so much of that in the downturn of Irish whiskey, that we lost so many of them skills, so many of them trades, that when we've got somebody like Ger to be in his company and to be, you know, look, the time we spent with him on the Whiskey Bus 2 was
unbelievable.
The access we had.
There are fewer than a dozen Coopers on the island of Ireland that are qualified, which is incredible. So there's a question here: does Ger have a large team or a big team? He doesn't. He has one apprentice. That's it. Yeah. And Ger is on his way towards retirement, and then his apprentice will take over from him. But you know, the days of it's a different role now than it was 50 years ago or 40 years ago. Today, it's there's a lot of ambassadorial work involved. There is some repairing work involved between Ger and his apprentices, but barrels arrive already made. There was a time when they arrived taken apart in what they were called shooks, and Ger would put them together. And back in Ger's father's day and grandfather's day, they made the barrels. That doesn't happen anymore. They're made in Spain and the United States, but there's a repairing work. But most of Ger's job today is ambassadorial. But there's just in the island of Ireland, I mean, you've got maybe a couple of journeymen, but the rest of them are tied to distilleries like Tullamore, Bushmills, Middleton, and then places like Darnua Cooperage in Mayo. And that's it. There's not many more than that.
And yeah, even one further than that as well. There is no apprentice cooper at Bushmills, so it's just Alistair and Chris, father and son, third and fourth generation. That's it. And it begs the question, now correct me if I'm wrong, do you still have to go to Scotland to become fully qualified?
It's a bit of a grey area. So in Ireland, there's no official qualification for Master Cooper. in the United States, in the United Kingdom, like there is an association of coopers. But my understanding from talking to coopers and apprentices in Ireland is that to be a master cooper, you've been trained yourself by a master cooper over a period of 4 to 5 years minimum, and then you spend your time kind of working your way up through it. But it's a bit of a kind of there isn't an official standard for it.
Yeah, a sort of an official legislation. Yeah, because Chris, Alistair's son, Chris Kane, when he became fully qualified, I think it was 2018, and he had to go to Scotland to fully qualify. Again, he'd been learning. I mean, he was already essentially fully qualified. He was working as a cooper. It was just, he went over to Scotland.
I know they send them, so like the apprentices in Middleton have been sent to Kentucky, they've been sent to Scotland, they've been sent to Spain, down to Galicia, down to Antonio Paez, de Lobato. I was over in the Speyside cooperage in Speyside in Scotland a few weeks ago, and I was watching how they repair 100+ barrels a day. And they have all levels of coopers, from guys that are 17 and 18 years of age all the way up to 50, 60 years of age. And they all have their kind of various qualifications, but they're paid by the barrel every day. It's one of the few jobs left in the whiskey industry where you put your own stamp on a barrel that you repaired, and it's inspected by numerous people along the way. At the end of the day, you get to go to the accounting office and basically clock in and say, I have this many barrels repaired, add this to my wages. And their wages are different every single week based on how many barrels were repaired, how fast they were able to do it, how efficiently they were able to do it, how well they were able to do it, which is fascinating. But that's still a generation ahead of where Irish whiskey is today, I think.
Yeah. I think Engerand Van den Bosch, who was the cooper in Tullamore, has subsequently left, but he had 2 apprentices at one stage in Tullamore, and I think they've continued on when Engerand left the business. But again, I mean, even I know from GND here in Dundalk or from Cooley as well, that Cooley never had an official cooper, but they had guys like there's guys I know out there like Eddie Marmion and that you know they weren't coopers, but they knew their way around a barrel, and they could sort of fix them and repair them and just keep them going. And at the time, that's all they were doing, because again, it wasn't as what it is now. Look at 2 million barrels in Middleton.
Yeah.
That one warehouse that we were in, that warehouse 27, had 17,000 barrels in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enough to keep everybody busy, I suppose, but it's still, as you say, only 2 people down there essentially, and the same with Bushmills, that it's only 2 people as well.
Brian.
Yeah.
It's just one fella. It's just one lad going around Ireland breaking all the barrels.
Yeah.
When we catch him, that'll be the end of him.
I reckon it's Ger doing it on the sly. Ger goes around and sort of sabotages all the barrels,
That's it.
Keep him busy for a while longer. Now, where there's going to be a few mentions of Whiskey Bus, that we just had in August there, I would imagine. Certain of us have highlights from it. Anthony, you kind of said the whole thing was a highlight, which it absolutely was. It was such an incredible week with incredible people, learning, having fun, drinking amazing whiskies, unreleased whiskies, and every single day, every single stop brought something completely different. So it was, that was one of your standouts.
Well, and the reason being, I just said the whole thing because it is such a top to tail experience. There's literally, from the minute we met everybody at Clontarf and we got on the bus and we went into the Pierce Lines distillery, to what we experienced in there with Conor Ryan and the spirits that he gave us, which still are on the QT, I might add. We still, they can. I know, talking to Conor, he's frustrated that it's not out there in the market and we can't talk about them. But we got to drink something that still is now 4 months, 5 months later, is still not on the market. So that's how good the access that we get when we're doing these things. And I mean, that's only because of, as I said earlier on, the brands we levitate towards are the brands where we see reflections of us. Conor Ryan, I mean, come on. I mean, he's just so passionate about it. I think everybody enjoyed the time with him there in probably is what is one of the most prettiest distilleries in Ireland. To the last day, to the last dinner, where I mean, literally, it was just a phenomenal day. That was our final day in Middleton, in front of the Garden Distillery, the Garden House Distillery. It's just phenomenal. It was everything we got to do, and I mean, I think our gauge for it always has been, if it impresses us, then hopefully it will impress our guests.
Yeah.
And I think everything that we've done impressed us. I don't think there's anything that I'm coming away from. Look, I got frustrated a wee bit about the food things and all that sort of stuff, but I think everybody loved it. Everybody enjoyed what we showcased and what they experienced. So I think, for me, the whole Whiskey Bus as its entirety, and look, getting to it with you two guys, where we just have a bit of crack in it as well. Our Barry says the currency is crack, and that's what we do. I mean, that's what it is.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we're very lucky. I know none of us take it for granted that we have forged these friendships in the industry that allow us to do what we do and allow us to have that access. And as you said, Anthony, to echo your words, the brands and the people that get it are the brands that will reap the rewards of the community that we have. I mean, you saw the reaction to Dunville's, who prior to Whiskey Bus won the original Whiskey Bus, they were mentioned, but not a lot. And it's just opened a can of worms for Jarlath and the team at Ecklenville, and deservedly so. It's an unbelievable brand. You'd be hard pushed to find another distillery in Ireland that manages sherry casks like they do. And it's just unbelievable. It really is. And it's just great that we get to have those kind of jaw-dropping experiences with your friends and with a bunch of great people who are so enthusiastic about Irish whiskey. Yeah. Barry's just beaming, but he's taking it all in.
This is the Lauren show tonight. If you need input, let me know. I can't really add to that. And in true male fashion, but I will. It is a testament to so much that what Lauren has helped us build, and our friendships and the camaraderie and friendship in the world of Irish whiskey. And then, of course, our amazing community, of which many of you watching here tonight are part of, that have allowed it all to come together. When we'll talk more about Irish whiskey experiences later, but like the goal of the Whiskey Bus is very simple. It has to be a win-win-win proposition. That's it. The guest has to win, the distilleries have to win, the industry has to win, and Irish Whiskey Experiences has to be able to sustain this in a win environment. So all of these things have to happen, which means that whenever we're planning these things, none of those elements can be out of the equation. So it can't just be, let's take advantage of a distillery or let's take advantage of a guest. Everyone represents kind of a seat at the table, and that's been very important to us. And I think it has struck a chord, and long may we continue to be able to bring win-win-win situations to distilleries and guests. It's the great joy of my life at the moment, and long may it continue.
And I think 5 years ago, what we have now would not have been possible. It is down to the growth of the Irish whiskey industry. New people kind of finding a love and a passion for Irish whiskey opened a real door. And because it is still a relatively young current day market, the Irish whiskey industry, I mean, of course, it's something that both of you obviously saw a real gap with, was the whiskey tourism specific sort of genre. So we're very grateful. And
no, we didn't see a gap. We were drunk.
That's true.
We were drunk, and we sort of said, it's typical of both me and Barry. I should go on. Should we give it a lash? And that's exactly how it turned out. And then now look what it's become. It's become.
Well, you saw. I think you were drunk initially at the start of last year. Then you saw what was possible with the first.
Sorry. Yeah, we were.
Anthony was drunk. I've never been drunk in my life. I have maintained a sobriety and levity that has been essential in all of our transactions.
True, Barry. Actually, you've been the sensible one. Yeah.
I have been the guiding light when everyone was falling around on the ground on all fours. But look, it takes a village, as they say. So look, all I'll do to add to that is this did start as a live stream lock-in idea that initially was, let's do 2 weeks around Ireland, and then we were talked out of that very quickly by doctors and surgeons and undertakers, and we were advised that like 1 week might be at it's already inadvisable, but let's aim for 1 week, and that's what we did.
2 weeks is lunacy.
That's originally what the plan was 2 weeks. And come on, sure, how hard can it be? Yeah.
So for those who are just joining and are not familiar with these shenanigans, the Whiskey Bus is part of our other company called Irish Whiskey Experiences. The three of us run that company. Three of us are involved in the company. 2 of us own it. 1 of us runs it. So, Anthony and I own the company. Lauren runs the company. Maybe in time, Lauren will also own part of the company. We run a number of experiences. The Whiskey Bus is one of them. We started with one experience in 2022, one Whiskey Bus. We had another Whiskey Bus in 2023. Would you believe there are currently plans for 5 Whiskey Buses in 2024? 2 of them are public, 3 of them are private. But these are 7-day experiences at the moment, or 6 to 8 day experiences, where we go behind the scenes with distilleries, with whiskey brands, to enjoy experiences that you cannot get if you rock up to the distillery door. They are not available. They are purely based on relationships and us curating a number of experiences that are exclusive to those who join the Whiskey Bus. I will say that, like, as somebody who is a whiskey fan myself and an imbiber and enjoyer of whiskey, I absolutely love what the Whiskey Bus does because it brings me closer to people and places that we just wouldn't get otherwise. So that's what we do. Go to irishwhiskeyexperiences.com. You'll get the details of the next Whiskey Bus at any one time, but we're planning on 5 to 10 of these a year if we have anything to do with it, right, Lauren?
Absolutely, yeah. We're delighted.
10. I think that's in the contract. She used to do 10.
10.
It's definitely in the contract, Barry.
I thought it was 1 a month. I thought it was 12.
Page.
No, we will give you December off.
466.
Yeah, we'll give you
December off, the whole month off. Yeah. July and December off.
No, well, actually, no. I think some of that will be in the clinic.
Yes, that's right. That's right. In a dark room in a clinic. Yeah.
Yeah, we had allocated time for that. Yeah, absolutely.
We are.
No, actually, it's at your own cost as well. I might add, we're not paying for that.
We are about to announce another Whiskey Bus for September 2024. We have a almost sold out Whiskey Bus for March 2023. I think we've got 2 seats left on that one, which is on the Wild Atlantic Way. We've another Whiskey Bus in April and May that are private whiskey buses, and potentially one in June or who knows as well. But we are excited about announcing the next public Whiskey Bus, which is for September 2024, and we'll be announcing it in January 2024.
Don't say it. I was just about to jump in. I was like, please don't announce this. We have a plan.
Lauren, I got the memo. We talk every day. Like, I get the memo.
Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, back to my highlight. As I said, Whiskey Bus. So that's Barry's after giving a good sales pitch of what the Whiskey Bus is. But the Whiskey Bus 2 for me was definitely a highlight of last year. And I look forward with trepidation and fear for whiskey buses to come this in 2024. Anyhow.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair summary.
Yep.
Let's move on. Another highlight.
Oh, yes.
This is a little self-indulgent highlight here.
Lauren, this whole night is self-indulgent. Like, lest we think this is anything about our wonderful audience and just about us. Like, this. Anyway, one of my highlights for 2023 was the not unconnected to Whiskey Bus number 1 is.
I remember now.
I was about to kill this whole thing.
What a privilege that we don't remember the numbers. The Shorecross. So our last stop on Whiskey Bus number 1 was the Redemon Estate Distillery. Shorecross whiskey is made at Redemon Estate, thanks to the wonderful owners there, Fiona and David Boyd Armstrong, who have been great friends of ours. I wouldn't say they requested that we visit. They demanded that we visit as part of Whiskey Bus 1, and they won't mind me saying it. In fact, it was Fiona who said, "You bring that Whiskey Bus here or we're done." And I did not want to cross Fiona, so we brought the Whiskey Bus there. And we weren't disappointed. They filled a cask of whiskey for us, and we also tasted a whiskey there that blew our minds. It was the last whiskey of 63 whiskeys tasted over 1 week. 63 is a lot, and that was just the official number. But it was a peated whiskey, a peated single malt whiskey, about 6 years of age, that was aged in an orange bitters and cognac cask. So it was sweet, like a orange, like lovely citrus notes, chocolatey notes, and lovely kind of a malt note to it as well. Anyway, it was so good that we were forced to request that bottle as a single cask for Stories and Sips, and David and Fiona acquiesced and agreed and said, "You can have it. We'd love to have it." It was the first peated whiskey released in Northern Ireland in 100 years, and it was our Shorecross whiskey. And it is, I don't mind saying, look, I've had 9 whiskey releases in the past 2 years. It may be my favorite to date, and for the simple reason that it ties all of the aspects of my whiskey life together: Irish whiskey experiences, Stories and Sips, our group, our community, all the best people. And it was a particular highlight for me. I got to put my name to this and bring it out to our community, who many of whom are not peated whiskey fans. And I will say many of whom are still not peated whiskey fans, but some were convinced and converted. Others will never talk to me again. It doesn't matter. The goal of the club is to try things we've never tried before. And we tried an absolutely cracking whiskey. And if I had 100 more of these bottles, I'd be happy. I don't. I have like 3 of them on my shelf. My whiskey highlight of 2023.
Fair enough. It's a great drop. I'm not a peated whiskey lover, as I've said before, but I really, really enjoyed the Shorecross. I could easily sip on that. Probably one of the first peated whiskies I've ever genuinely enjoyed. And I think, did we have it? Yeah, I think we had it in an old fashioned at the Shelburne, because they obviously have a bottle of it. So I'm pretty sure I enjoyed one of those throughout the Whiskey Bus week. Great drop. Terry's chocolate orange.
Fantastic.
I think it's one of them great whiskies that is a true example of the taste. You can do so much of it because it was released at the cask strength or distiller strength, I think they called it at the time for you, Barry.
66%.
It was a massive whiskey. I mean, a massive whiskey on the first sip. But as you, and again, it allowed you to explore your own taste with it. So as you added another drop of whiskey, another drop of water to it, you got each tier and level of flavor coming out of it. And as you said, Terry's chocolate orange, I think, is a great one. It was sort of like, it just came in. For me, I would say probably about the low 50s or the low 50s mark. When you put a couple of drops of water into it, it really started to blossom as a whiskey, and it really started to open up. And as I say, I think it's a great exploration of whiskey and what it can be, as well as I say, as you get them tiers, as you refine the water through it and get the different taste on it.
Absolutely.
Very
But I
proud.
still can't believe the bit that actually I'm probably more disgusted over on this is the fact that Barry Chandler, I hate peated scotch, I hate peated whiskey, I hate everything about it, was you were negatively influenced on Whiskey Bus 1, and it was the start of your downfall. And now only 2 weeks ago you were over in Scotland. I mean, have we lost you, Barry? Is this it? Have you something to tell us?
I think we are. I think he's slipping.
Listen, the modern man must have an open mind and must be open to changing his mind when new information enters it. And new whiskies entered not just my mind, but my mouth and my belly. And I saw the light. I was converted, and I'm now twice as poor as I was before because now I have to buy peated as well as non-peated.
But the question that, like Dave Stewart there, I mean, he has a lot to answer for. He does an awful lot to answer for. And not only did he sort of pop your cherry on peated whiskey, but he also went in at the deep end. He went straight in an Octomore. So it wasn't just like, here's a little one. Here's a kick in the face of a Scotch whiskey.
There we go. Yeah, straight in. Octomore 13.1 here. Look, I've said before, I've said it again. I'm in pursuit of flavor. Some flavors I like, some I won't. But I took my time. People like James Doherty at Sleeve League held my hand and said, add a drop of water, add an ice cube. Dahi O'Connell over time said, Barry, a drop of Bill Phil, take your time with it. Everyone held my hand like a small wee child. And eventually I got to the point where I said, you know what? I can take the old stabilizers off the bike now. The old training wheels can come off. I'm ready for Octomore, and I dove straight in.
That's not what happened, Barry. Barry, you were piss drunk and Dave Stewart put one out for you. That's exactly what happened. Well, tell the truth.
I've never been drunk in my life, as you well know.
Actually, just on that, Barry, I mean, again, you asked me about the Sheehy's earlier on. 0.25% is the peat influence in that. That's all that's in the Sheehy's. And I mean, again, I think peat's a great thing for rounding, and what I describe as rounding off the edges of a whiskey. Mm-hmm. It really, particularly young whiskies as well. So it's a great one for doing it. But I think everybody needs it somewhere in their life. But I mean, the way you went about it is, the question is, what do we have to do to get you back, Barry? How can we bring you back to Irish?
Why would you want me? Why would you want an evolved brain and mind who has further embraced the world of Irish whiskey to now limit himself to just those that are on peat? I mean, yes. It feels antithetical to even your own business plan, which is sell more whiskey. Surely you want me buying peated whiskies from the old shelves of Irish whiskey auctions every month.
Next thing it'll be cognac, and that's it. That's it. You've just gone. We've lost you.
He's already starting on sherry. He's going to start on sherry.
I feel sorry for the small-minded people who can't embrace change and open their minds to flavor. I hope you're happy in the small world you've created for yourselves, because I wasn't.
I'm going to stop this now before there's a war breaks out here. There is a civil war about to break out here. Goodness me. Anyway, enough about peat.
You know, you're going to bring out a peated whiskey.
I have more peated whiskies to come, and you better get used to it. Or that's all I'm saying.
I mean, there's still definitely more non-peated whiskies to outweigh the peat that I think I will survive.
We'll get them back. We'll get them back.
You'll all be grand.
We'll take them on Whiskey Bus 3 and we'll get them into loads of good Irish whiskey. We'll bring them back. We'll save them. Don't worry.
God forbid the man might be more knowledgeable and able to talk about things and understand differences in approaches. Well, we'll stick to your small worlds of Dundalk and Antrim.
Off on a jolly around Scotland, betraying your roots, Barry. Betraying your roots.
One of the most successful Shebeens I've ever had was live from Scotland. So all I'll say is,
great night.
Open your mind.
Good night.
Sold your soul to the devil. Shameful. Shameful. Absolutely shameful. Anyway, moving onwards.
No, we do, David Stewart. We do hold grudges. No, you're dead to us.
No, now I will say the Chandlers are particular holders of grudges. Like my father, who is 78 years of age, will walk past people who he had a fight with in the schoolyard at 7 years of age. You know, he as he says himself, I don't hold a grudge, but I'll never forget.
we do love a good grudge. Forgive but never forget. You know.
Right, what's next?
So much fun.
More self-indulgence. I mean, you could argue this isn't self-indulgence because yes, we created the whiskey bus, but Clonakilty pulled all the stops out to welcome us in the rolling fields of West Cork, where Per Nigel, our bus driver, almost took off the side of the bus, trying to navigate some of these roads to bring us to these beautiful locations. God love him. So another one of the highlights of the whiskey bus that we just recently had back in August was the Clonakilty barley fields. We went out to Gallyhead Lighthouse. If Kristen is still here, this is her hand. So thank you for this wonderful photo. We went out to the Gallyhead. We went out to Gallyhead where the Scully family grow their barley. They've been farming and growing barley for 7 generations out in West Cork. It's where Clonakilty Distillery grows not all but most of their barley. And we were joined by Michael Scully himself, O'Sheen, Master Distiller, and Ewan, who's Visitor Experience Manager. Correct me if I'm wrong in his title there. We were joined by the Clonakilty team. We sipped what will be, was it the world's first single pot still whiskey made from the revived Goldthorpe heritage barley? What will be?
The first triple distilled Irish whiskey made with Goldthorpe.
Yes, there we are. And it was a real full circle moment to stand in a barley field and drink a glass of soon-to-be whiskey. And we had a bit of lunch. The views were amazing. I mean, you can see it for yourselves. It was unbelievable. It was one of those days where I feel like everyone was just really in the moment. And I just wanted to find a blanket and lie down there with a whiskey and have a nap. Because that was day 6, so we were we were running out of steam by this point, but it was unbelievable. And how could it not be a highlight? We were so lucky with the weather. That is not a typical representation of Ireland. I can say that for sure.
It's a typical representation of Cork. I don't know what part of Ireland you come from, but this
here we go.
This picture in all its glory doesn't even come close to representing the visceral feeling of that day. The bus was parked, and it was one of those kind of classic Hollywood moments where you park the bus, you walked, and then you turned a corner, and then as the corner unfolded, it revealed the coastline, the Cork coastline to you, and the fields, and the just like these little fingers, like fingering potatoes sticking into the ocean. It was just unbelievable, and the sun was out. And it was the same day that the barley was about to be harvested. About an hour after we left, the combine harvester came in and cut that barley down. But prior to that, we sat in the field. We ate seafood sandwiches. It was absolutely spectacular. And there was a lot of silence that day. I think we just sat there. They looked, they soaked it in. They thought, there was pictures taken. But of all the days, it was maybe the quietest day. And I loved that for it. It was just beautiful.
That may have had something to do with Lauren on the Lee the night before and a massive session in the Shelburne.
Fact.
May have had an impact.
We all had the fear.
We all did. All of us were riddled with the fear. We definitely were, absolutely. But it was gorgeous.
I'm going back to poor Dave Stewart now on this, that both myself and Dave missed this day. Dave wasn't well that day, and unfortunately I had to work, not like the rest of you. I had to do a real job, and I couldn't just drop everything and go drinking whiskey for the day in a field at the end of the world. But I have experienced that previously with another society, and it is the end of the world. You just feel so at the edge of the world, and a privilege to be standing in the fields. I mean, where else? I can't imagine anywhere else you can experience that there, what we done. And I do mean that worldwide. I mean, there's nowhere else, there's no other company, I think, that could offer that other than Irish whiskey experiences. It is something truly, truly special. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to walk through the doors of Clonakilty Distillery and be offered a barley field experience. That's just not going to happen. And we were blown away by that day. We really were. And the stops that the guys at Clonakilty pulled out for us, it was unbelievable. And then, of course, we went from there onto the warehouse, a few cask samples. It was just a fantastic day. Really was.
You know what's often missed in the story of Irish whiskey is the story prior to the distillery. And I think Waterford Whiskey have done a great job at heroing the farmer and the grain and the ground. And now Clonakilty are doing the same thing. But you go to any distillery website, what are you going to see on the front page, on the homepage of the website? You're going to see copper pot stills, you're going to see chrome and copper, but you're rarely going to see where the barley was grown. And there's a reason for that. Because the honest answer is that most distilleries don't know where their barley was grown because they buy it from a maltster, which is a central middleman who purchases from hundreds and hundreds of farmers, who creates a big mountain of grain. It's all of a similar protein percentage. It all approximately equates technically the same way. However, flavors will differ, but in the kind of the grand scheme of things, it's kind of similar bulk barley.
Yeah.
There's very few distilleries in Ireland that can say, I grew my grain there. You talked about Powers Rye earlier. Powers Rye can point to the field in Wexford where the grain grew. Clonakilty can point to the fields that they own where the grain grows. Waterford Distillery can point to every single field and square inch that their barley grew in. That's a special thing where we can go all the way back to where the seed was sown, because I think it's an important part. The farmers have a much bigger role to play than they're given credit for, and we should do more to hero them.
But I think, Barry, again, to your question, again, at the start of the evening of what does next year hold, I think more brands are going to start to celebrate that. We've got the Ballykeefe, we've got the Tipperary, we've got so many farms now that have their own distillery on site that are going to be distilling their grain. Nick Ryan with Thomond Gate, Maurice O'Connell with the Liberator. Ecklinville, I mean, Ecklinville are going to have, not only are they going to be growing their barley, they're going to be malting their own barley themselves. They're going to be distilling it, bottling it. It's literally going to be a true farm to bottle distillery. But there's loads of them doing that. And I think that story is going to be told and celebrated a lot more because, you know, the terroir project that Waterford embarked on, yes, they've gone to the nth degree on it, but I think an awful lot of people are looking for that traceability now. I think more in the sustainable world that we're looking to, that, you know, reduced transport costs, everything else that's involved in it for the environment. The farms now are looking to sort of, you know, get more out of it and themselves get more out of it. They're looking at more sustainable, you know, practices for the farms themselves. So I think that story is going to be told better. And I think that's maybe something that's going to set Irish whiskey maybe apart as well. I mean, we're known worldwide for our farming, for our dairy products, for our beef, for all these great products. Let's see, is whiskey going to be one of them, because the full traceability is going to be there in the distilleries as well.
And I mean, we also had a fantastic tasting with Ned from Waterford in Faithleg. Yeah. And it was so nice how he talked about the farmer getting really excited walking into the local pub and being able to order a Waterford where the barley came from his farm. Like, it's such a nice community feel to a brand, and I hope we see more of that as well. I mean, put it this way, without the farmers, there would be no Irish whiskey industry, as Ned said as well. So,
this is me. This is me. 5 years. What started out like a mad, literally, I know, not dissimilar to everything I've done in my life, but not dissimilar to Irish whiskey experiences of, so how hard can it be? Come on, we'll jump on a bus and we'll go around the country. Irish whiskey auction started the same way of, why isn't there an auction platform in Ireland? And to think that we've got to 5 years with it was a huge thing for us. And then to have friends, to have brands that we're fond of, to be able to back it up, and then, as I say, ultimately to have the Sheehy single, to have our name on a bottle in our pub called with our name over the door is, lads, I don't think anybody will ever know how appreciative I am of the support we've received in Irish whiskey auctions, because it has just been phenomenal. It really has. It's helped us grow. I mean, only last month we had our biggest ever auction, 1,839 lots. I mean, it was just massive.
Crazy. It's
absolutely
crazy.
Massive. So the whiskies that we done, I mean, I think you've got a photo of them there, Lauren, have you, of the 5 whiskies
yeah.
that we done? The Dingle, as I said, the Dingle, we sort of nearly grew up together, Russ and Dingle, in that their whiskey was just hitting the market when we started. So people started looking for the Dingle 1 and the Dingle 2. Dingle 1 cask strength was selling for, over €1,000, and people were talking about it. Did you see the auction platform that was selling these bottles? So it was, it was great for us to have them. Graham and Beardy Dave, I mean, we all consider Beardy Dave a good friend. But Graham and Faye and Elliot and the team and Dingle have been great supporters of us, and we in turn have been great supporters of them. Dunvilles, I mean, anybody who knows me knows that Dunvilles have got a special place in my heart. I mean, the team up there are so generous. Yeah. I think that's because they're the only ones t-shirts that actually fit me that they send to me. Everybody else sells me, t-shirts for Barry sort of size that just won't even go around my arm. So
easy.
So Dunvilles is very important to me, and look, I mean, what they done for us that day when we were up there picking out the casks, I think we got a cracker in 1769. It is typical Dunvilles Palo Cortado. It is a whopper of a drink. Sheehy's, I think it's I've said enough about that. Just to have your name in a bottle is a very great thing, and to have your daughter make the whiskey, just for me, it ticks all the boxes. The next one, the 2 stacks, Lauren, you said you've got a bottle of it there.
I do, and I really want to reach it, but confession time, I'm wearing pajama bottoms, so I don't really want to show the world that.
Turn off your video. Turn off your video and go grab it.
I will. Yes, the 2. I love. The reason why I really wanted to get my hands on that one in particular is because it's so different and it's unbelievably unique. It's like a fizzy sweet.
How they've done it? How the lads have done it? When we talked to Liam Donald and Shane about doing this, I mean, they were all on board to do it. And they said about putting it, a celebration whiskey. Let's put it in a champagne cask, and we were like, okay, fair enough. A pink champagne Grand Cru cask, and it's fizzy. How they've achieved the fizzy whiskey, I'll never know. And then finally,
Soda Stream, isn't it?
A Soda Stream, yeah, the old Soda Stream. And then Cologne, Brendan, the mad genius that it is. Brendan's just a genius. I mean, how 3-year-old whiskey can taste as good as that tastes, I'll never know. I'll truly never know. He's just a genius. It is, and every single one of the brands have been good to us, and I hope we've been good to them back, bar the Sheehy's. Yeah, for me, it was a definite highlight to be able to, and for Irish Whiskey Auctions to be 5 years old.
Let's not forget the amount of money you raised for charity with the release of these whiskies. How much did you raise?
€52,000 in total.
Amazing.
That we split that out amongst 5 charities. They all got €10,200 each. It is a phenomenal amount of money. We have been, charity's very important to us, always has been and always will be. As long as there's breath in my body, I'll be doing stuff for charity. And we raised, I mean, the month of October, we raised just over, I think it's just under €100,000 between the two charity auctions that we done. Last year we done 150,000 in 2022 in total, and we've just blown that clean out of the water this year. I think we're up on $250,000 for charity that we've raised this year.
Amazing.
So we can't move on from this without acknowledging what you and Katie have done for Irish whiskey and getting Irish whiskey into new corners of the world, introducing it to people, allowing people that platform to get their hands on whiskies they may not have otherwise. It is unbelievable, and you're one of the hardest working people I know, and you really are. It's unbelievable. It really is.
Work that hard now. Let's be fair. Like he works, but not that hard.
Everybody else works around me, Barry. I've this ability to be able to get people to work around me. So
he builds a good team. Let's be honest.
Look at this team that we have together here. I mean, we build a good team. So
we do.
I've been lucky enough to have good people around me. But I mean, look, we again, I think it comes back to what I spoke about earlier. When you're passionate about it, you'll never work a day in your life. You know.
Yeah, but you put in. We have to say this because you won't. You put in more time, more effort, more individual care. I've seen you bleed / cry over things that perhaps could have gone wrong or were threatening to go wrong, but you fix them through your own hard work and your efforts, and you never want people to be short or feel like they were in any way hard done by or didn't get the best experience. When things go wrong, you fix them. And I can tell you from my experience, when in building stories and sips, there's many points where I've asked myself, what would Anthony do? And I've done that because I know it's the right thing. And you've been an inspiration to me in my business. And so I raise a glass to you, and we'll always raise a glass to you. And there's nobody I'd rather be in business with than you and Lauren, of course. So you built an extraordinary business, and I'm very lucky to call you friends. So what a business, and congratulations on 5 extraordinary years.
Yeah, it has been. It's been 5. Thanks, Barry. They're very good words and lovely to hear. But yeah, look, it's been tough, but it's been great. And I mean, I wear my heart in my sleeve a lot of the time, and I take everything that I do very personal. I mean, it is. I want to do shit right. So let's do it right.
Well, you do, and look, we're all the better for you doing it.
Dave, you're right. Absolutely. The world is upside down. You know,
this live stream will be deleted tomorrow. It'll be.
It will never be on record anywhere else. Barry complimenting me and saying I've done something right. Yeah, no, we can't have.
Look, once every 5 years, he'll get something out of it.
A compliment for 5 years. Only come in 5-year blocks.
I do have a very serious question. So if I celebrated 5 years of Irish whiskey auctions, you're not a kick in the bum away from 5 years with Stories and Sips of your original project, because I remember meeting you for the first time probably 2018, 2019
That's right.
in the Palace Bar.
Yeah.
Was the first time I met you.
Yeah.
So you're not a million miles away from 5 years yourself.
Yeah. I think it's about 5 years officially of Stories and Sips as a name. It's had, I suppose, a few evolutions from podcast to YouTube channel to community to now Whiskey Club. The club itself has been 2 years in existence, but yeah, 5 years of Stories and Sips. And I think there was 2018, you had started, Irish Malts had started, I had started, and I remember having conversations, all of us having conversations with each other at various points and just talking about where we were. But I do, yeah, that there was a whiskey, that Whiskey Live. I remember standing outside Dublin Castle, 2018 Whiskey Live, talking to you and Katie, and that was a kind of a seminal moment because it was kind of the start of the new breed of, like, we were all the kind of the young scuts coming in and saying, look, we've an interest. We mean well. Give us a chance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're exactly that. There was an element of that of who are these people coming along and saying. And again, I think people soon realised that we came from a good place, that we were sort of just passionate about it and wanted to talk about it as well. But the big question is, how do we celebrate 5 years of Irish whiskey experiences?
Here.
Well, by that stage, we'll have taken over the Earth. We might be looking to the moon.
That's a great question, though. You could do some mad stuff. Month-long whiskey bus. Just
we will, Lauren, put that on the old to-do list there to start planning.
Stick it on Trello.
We haven't even reached a year yet.
But Larry and Christine, they're talking about, don't forget about the Teeling visit and lunch at Teeling's. And he pulled that off perfectly. Again, that was only because of the relationships we have. But I mean, that day, I don't think I did list that, but that was one of the ones. Having John Teeling talk to the group, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
And then Tato's from the flatbed truck. Like, there's no hard to beat. I think Troy, one of our whiskey guests, summed it up best. So outside Teeling, we had one experience that couldn't happen for various logistical reasons. So Teeling stepped in and saved the day in more ways than one. And then our lunch was trays of sandwiches, crisps, and then it was served off the back of Anthony's truck. And Troy, God bless him, in his unique way, took a picture and said, "I spent $3,000 and I get a packet of crisps on the back of a truck," which it was actually both a compliment and an insult all in one. And we took it as the compliment that it was.
You know what, though? That was actually, like, so many people said about how much they loved that, because it was so just like, I'm outside Teeling eating a sandwich, having a drop of Lucasade. It was just something so Irish about it. Amazing.
Cheryl, I was a Tato's virgin until that event. There you go.
There you are.
Well, I don't know what I can add to that, Cheryl. There's probably loads of things that if I wasn't being recorded, I could add to it. But I mean, I'll let it go.
I want to talk about a highlight for me, and it was a particular pleasure for me with this whiskey bus that we got to go to Cork. The first whiskey bus inexplicably went to Dundalk, and I had to find a way back. And I remember sitting in the front of the bus, and Anthony won't mind me saying it, but and I know how he felt at the time, because I felt it when it came to Cork. But there was a sense of pride when we brought Whiskey Bus 1 to Dundalk, because, look, Anthony, you said it at the time, this is where you grew up, to bring people back from America and showcase your county, and apparently you had good things to offer. You were able to show off Dundalk, and I felt the same with Cork, that when Whiskey Bus 2 came around, that I remember crossing that bridge from Waterford, the countdown across the bridge from Waterford, going into Cork, and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as we drove over the old River Blackwater.
I have it on video.
That was a highlight for me. The big highlight then was getting to Midleton and having a chance to experience the oldest, rarest part of the distillery with everybody. And this moment here, which is a little screen grab from the video I took, which was Kevin O'Gorman, the master distiller of the biggest distillery in Ireland, the busiest man in Ireland, arguably, who took a day off to say, do you know what, I'm going to take care of this group here today and bring them into the oldest warehouse on the island of Ireland. And not only that, I've got a cask of Dargaelic put together for the whiskey bus. In other words, a vatting of Dargaelic releases made for us, sampled by us, and then bottled up for us. I have a bottle of it here.
I haven't opened mine yet. I can't bring myself to open it yet.
That was a highlight for me. This is the same warehouse where the Midleton Very Rare casks are assembled over the course of a year to be bottled. It's where the silent distilleries are bottled from. It's where the Midleton Very Rare, the Dream casks, the Redbreast Dream casks are hidden away. The oldest stock, anyway, in the Midleton warehouse, going up to about 47, 48 years of age, 49 years of age, is there. It was an unbelievable moment. It was surreal. It was theatrical in its delivery. Kevin nailed it by having us all gather around one single barrel, tasting from it, and then, you know, he didn't need any prompts. Kevin's a pro. He knew what to do. He asked, "Did everybody like that?" And everyone said, "Of course." And then he said, "Would everybody like a bottle of it?" And people fainted and somebody pooped themselves. It was all kinds of craziness. And people ran. That was Anthony.
Anthony.
And then we all got a bottle of this unbelievable bottling of this Dargaelic Irish oak. It was one of the moments on Whiskey Bus 2 where I was fighting back the tears, I'll be honest with you, because I was looking around the room, the warehouse, thinking, we all collectively, as a community, as owners of the company, as managers of the company, as the distillers, like, we all did this thing in this one day. And it was like the moment in Whiskey Bus 1 at the dinner in the Europa Hotel in Belfast, where we said we had this kind of farewell dinner. I remember where it was like, we did this thing, you know, we brought everyone here. Yeah. And then Whiskey Bus 2, for me, this was the moment, like, we really did it, didn't we? Like, we did this thing. An absolute highlight.
Honestly, you're saying it brought tears to your eyes. When we were on the way back to the Metropole from Middleton, I think it was Nigel, our bus driver. You know, Nigel loved his motivational speeches every morning with his dulcet tones, and he said something about us three pulling off some kind of unbelievable week. And it was in that moment you thought, one, we've done this, and two, it's over. And it was that collective rush of emotions of, oh my goodness, it was emotional saying bye to people you've been with for 7 days. It really is. You do build such a community, even in that little bubble of a week. And it's amazing. And there is a real pride in showing off either where you came from, where you were born, or a city maybe you have an affiliation with, which I'll mention in a few minutes. It's great. It's just unbelievable. It's an honor, it really is.
And selfishly, like, to add to that, just I don't know of any other place where this will all come together. And I know we own this whiskey experience company, we run it, but for Kevin O'Gorman to come out and to pour this from by hand, it's just, we're so lucky, we're so fortunate. And look, folks, if you can join us in any experience, we promise you will leave with memories for a lifetime, because we're determined to make memories for ourselves.
I'll do one even better on that cask, Barry. I don't. You said there it was the vatting of it. That cask is not only the vatting of it, but the staves in the barrel are the leftover staves from the original Grinsel's Wood Forest.
Right.
I mean, how rare it is. I mean, I'm telling you, as in my business, tree number 1 for that, a bottle of that goes for about €7,000 now. So what we tasted that day and what we have home with us is a very, expensive. If they were to put it in a bottle and put a label on the front of it and charge it, but the atmosphere in that, I mean, because it's so dimly lit and the spotlight on the cask and the theatre of what we experienced that day, as I say, it was just phenomenal. Kevin, you said he spent the whole day with us. He was ill. He literally went above and beyond to showcase his brand, his distillery, and his whiskey ultimately. I mean, it was just such a whopper day. It really was just and I get it. I applaud you. And I think Cork served us well, as much as it sort of sticks in my throat a wee bit. That well, I'll put it to you like this: it had a lot more to showcase than County Louth did. I mean, we got we got the Boyne Bridge, we got a multicolored car wash, and we got Sheehy's Pub. I mean, that was all.
Anytime I visited Middleton beforehand, obviously long before Irish Whiskey Experiences was ever a thing, it just blows my mind every time I'm there. It's such a massive scale that you can't quite comprehend unless you actually visit it and you see it in front of you. And to go one further than that, which we did in August, was just it was a perfect example of how a distillery experience should be. The stages that we went through, the presentation from Carl Quinn, the mini Middleton Academy from Tommy Byrne, meeting Jer, meeting Barrett from the micro distillery that Method of Madness is of course produced, and Kevin just escorting us the whole day. It just Dave McCabe,
Actually,
of course, as well.
Here's one that you'll all resonate with. People's faces, staff's faces, as they see the bus driving past us, and what the hell is that doing here? Like, it's
Follow for whiskey.
the ordinary down there. This massive, big, red and slightly battered bus driving around, mirrors and various other
took a few hits.
I see there was mention to it of in the chats there about the gates. We definitely left our mark on Middleton, and it left its mark on us.
100%. There's a bit of silver paint on the gate.
On the body gate, yes.
There were many health and safety debrief meetings held after we left, wondering how did that ever happen? What went wrong? Post-mortem meetings, curious, like if they could hit the barley gates of the bus, might they have hit a fermenting tank? Might they have hit a gas line?
No, I think one of my favorite quotes of the week was when we were with Michael Scully going to the warehouse, the Clonakilty warehouse, and Michael said something to Nigel about, there's containers full of barrels come up here or whatever, and Nigel goes, but you can scratch a container. You can scratch a bus. Or then he also came back with, containers can bend, my bus can't. He was not happy. Gotta love Nigel. He was stressed to the high heavens that day.
Well,
he really was.
we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I know like when we did our Belfast Whiskey weekend and they gave us the same bus, I was very upset to be getting a damaged bus for Belfast Whiskey weekend. I thought, listen, we're paying full dollar here. Can we not get at least a new bus? I don't care how it was damaged before.
I mean, I think the scrapes from the many branches he hit on the way to the warehouse were still there, but the wingmer had at least been fixed.
There was laws of gravity and trigonometry defied on that journey, and fair play to Nigel. Let's move on to the next one there, Lauren.
Yes, I think this was a highlight. Now, you did mention this.
Self-indulgent.
Honest to God, she's obsessed with herself.
Unbelievable.
Obsessed with herself.
Move on. Next slide.
What's the next one here? No, we'll move on from that.
Come on.
Belfast Whiskey Weekend.
Yeah, that's...
Also self-indulgent.
Go on. You've 5 minutes. I'm timing you. Go on.
Right, go on.
Okay.
This wasn't me. This was not my highlight.
Yeah.
This was not my highlight.
Tonight. You done it. It's all you.
No, this was Barry's highlight.
It was, yeah.
No, I'm not being a narcissist here, Barry. On you go.
I complimented Anthony. I might as well compliment Lauren. We'll delete this live stream tomorrow. We hosted an event this year that was an astronomically unbelievable event in the sense of we brought 40 people out onto Cork Harbour. We probably defied all laws of insurance in doing so, but we served 3 amazing pours of whiskey hosted by Lauren. It was a Lauren on the Lee. We branded it as Lauren hosted a tasting, her first ever tasting outside of Bushmills, to represent other brands and to hero other Irish whiskies aside from Bushmills. Not only did she do it well, she heroed herself, ingrained herself into our Irish whiskey community, and enshrined her role in the ongoing growth of Irish whiskey thanks to her attitude and her ability. And I know how nervous she was going into this and how hard it was to do it. But we had an unbelievable night out on Cork Harbour, led by Lauren. Whiskey, anniversary cake, food, songs, poetry. It was the night to beat all nights. So much so that it has become a requested event on private whiskey buses that have that want to do the Cork element. They've asked that Lauren on the Lee is included. And it was just unbelievable. So, Lauren, I do tip my hat to you. You pulled it out. You did it. You nailed it. And you're a legend. And also, we hate you.
Well, actually, Barry, I wanted just to bring up something, and maybe this isn't the time to do it. There will be deductions from Lauren's salary, because you know the way that we had marketed Bushmills on a boat. So all the literature that we generated for that, and all the marketing that we'd put into that. I mean, we did extensive marketing, significant cost, Barry, significant cost.
Those JPEGs aren't free. Those PNG files aren't free.
No.
Do you know what?
Selfishness. She wanted it all about her, and Lauren Lee wasn't. We couldn't, like, one of the most reputable brands out there. We couldn't name it after them. Had to be all about Lauren. So, I mean, there will be, I think maybe we can discuss it later, but I mean, there'll be significant deductions.
I would just like to clarify, number one, you can bill it to Proximo Ireland. Number two, in case anyone has just joined this and genuinely think I am full of myself, it was meant to be Bushmills on a boat. I obviously departed Bushmills to join this venture. Hence why
I'm bigger than Bushmills. I will call this after me. How dare we don't want a small brand representing. Lauren is a much bigger brand than Bushmills. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Lauren on the Lee.
Yes.
I cannot.
You wanted your name on the side of the boat as well. I mean, there was no way I was ever going to sanction that.
I did, yeah. Actually, that's a brilliant idea. I'm going to put that in Trello in the morning. Brandon the boat with my name. Who said? Richard said someone drank the bar drive Guinness. I probably contributed to that quite a lot because I was very nervous. As Barry said, that was the first time I had ever stood up in front of an audience and talked about something other than Bushmills. So as much as I love other brands and I know about other brands, to convey that in front of an audience for the very first time was terrifying. I was scared. I was very nervous. Anthony talked about pooing himself in Middleton's warehouse. I almost did it at the side of the boat. So that was probably me. I won't lie.
Just actually, your sidekick and accomplice is after joining the chat there as well, Troy. I mean, I don't think we can discuss about the boat being drank dry of Guinness without mentioning he who cannot be named's name. Troy.
It was not consumed, to be fair. Like, there was a lot.
Thank you, Kevin.
I think most boats would reasonably expect that for an hour out on the harbour, a keg of Guinness should suffice. But how wrong they were. 88 pints is no match for a consumer like Troy.
Halfway. We only got halfway.
We hadn't even hit Cove. We hadn't hit Cove
when they ran out of Guinness. Yous are animals. Animals.
At what point do we begin to admit this is all a terrible mistake? We have problems here, and I don't know that we should be continuing.
Yeah, Greg's right. To be fair, the whiskey bottles were empty too. They definitely were. They were all tanked. Every drop. They
weren't emptied on the first pour, and I tried to hide them, but people discovered them and emptied them then. So thieves, scoundrels alike were on that boat, I can tell you.
Listen, and also, like, I God love the woman who was on board with us. Was it Vicky? I can't remember her name. Forgive me for forgetting her name. She was gobsmacked at the amount of Guinness that was coming out of that bar. So the first thing I will do the next time we end up in Cork and we're going to have a river cruise is tell them to put at least 3 kegs of Guinness.
Or don't take Troy.
True, maybe 6.
Just don't take Troy. I mean, that's always going to, have it.
We'll pull a barge. Pull one of those Guinness barges behind us. The triangle, the pyramids of Guinness kegs.
That's a great idea.
On that. me and my food fetish. I think the food was exceptional, exceptional. Look, the hospitality we experienced on the boat was brilliant. I mean, Nigel sitting up in the captain's chair, I thought was one of probably the highlights for me as well. Unfortunately, poor Jeff Timmy not enjoying the experience at all, but he persevered, and I hope he got something out of it. But I mean, you know, it really was something else. The singing, everything that went about it, the cake for probably the nicest couple that I think any of us ever know. Everything about it was a fantastic experience. It is a credit to you, Lauren. It is worthy of your name, Lauren and the Lee, and maybe I mightn't deduct too much from it.
And we succeeded in ensuring it didn't become Lauren in the Lee, which is an insurance.
That was a success. I didn't go overboard despite copious amounts of Guinness and whiskey. What was I going to say about? Yes, what the thing which we found so funny about the harbour cruise was the three of us torture ourselves to come up with these unbelievably thought out, sensational distillery experiences, tastings in the evening with brand representatives, brand ambassadors, distillers. And the most popular night was that night, which was a bit of crack in a session on a boat. But that's how we learn what you folks want and what you enjoy most. And
I don't know, Lauren, I don't know if you can claim that was the most successful just because your name was attached to it. Is that what it's about?
I'm only feeding back what I was told.
Well, we'll call it Barry on the boat next time. We'll see what we get out of it.
Well, I think, Barry, I second that. It's past. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Barry on the boat.
Fair
Actually,
enough.
I think that's one of the experiences that people can book.
That's right.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm available. I can navigate and pour whiskey at the same time and talk about our surroundings.
Yeah.
You don't even need to pay for the captain. I got it. I got it all covered. Lauren,
it's actually a paddle boat. Don't be fooled, it's a paddle boat.
The last of the highlights for you, Lauren, is this one.
Yes, I wanted. So there is one more, which I think will.
Oh yes.
All three of us will collectively talk about, which is very understandable.
Very self-indulgent again. Go
very
on.
Very self-indulgent, and I think everyone knows what's coming. But anyway, the Belfast Whiskey
Folks,
Weekend.
we'll cut it there. Thanks for a great night. We'll see you all next week.
I hit my 5 minutes. Damn it. The Belfast Whiskey Weekend. The reason I wanted to include this, and I'll not spend too long talking about it because we covered it quite recently on a Shebeen. This was obviously very special for me because, as many of you know, I'm not from Belfast, but I may as well be because I lived there for a number of years through just with work with Bushmills and at university. So I love the city. It's such a great city for a night out, whiskey, everything was going on there. Even from when I started university to now, the difference you can see in Belfast is it's like chalk and cheese. It's so different. And it's one of my favorite cities in Ireland. It's one of the best nights out in Ireland. It's just a great city. And Belfast, as many of you know, we've talked about, it used to be a real hub for Irish whiskey. It really rivaled Dublin for whiskey production at the kind of the peak of the Irish whiskey industry. And distilling was brought back to Belfast for the first time in almost 90 years in August of this year, thanks to Titanic Distillers. And following hot on their heels are, of course, McConnell's Irish Whiskey, based in Crumlin Road Jail in North Belfast. And to centre a whole whiskey weekend around Belfast and around the two distilleries that are flying the flag for the city was so special. And I think Barry and Anthony will agree with me. What the distilleries the brands who know us and understand us, we cannot thank them enough for what they do for us and how much they think outside the box of that ordinary distillery tour. They were such fantastic experiences. Getting to see McConnell's before they start producing whiskey. We saw the stills in place. We were the first ever public tour to be behind the walls of that distillery in such a historic Belfast building as well. And it was just unbelievable. And it was a real glimpse to the future of whiskey production in Belfast. And I just loved it. And it was a real sense of pride for me to showcase that to great people. It was a great couple of days, and yeah, that was up there. I couldn't have not included that.
I'm curious about this one because see, Anthony can rightfully claim Louth and I can rightfully claim Cork, but you're trying here now to shoehorn your way into Belfast and to make yourself somehow part of the Belfast distilling history and tying yourself to it as if it was Lauren on the Lee. You're trying to give yourself Lauren on the Lagan. I don't know. Honestly, this seems like another self-indulgent attempt to become, I don't know, to try and take ownership of something that's not even yours.
Let me just wind that right back to the historical ties that Bushmills have with Belfast on Hill Street, with the old headquarters and the old warehouse and bottling line being there.
Did you build Belfast? Did you build Bushmills?
You don't work for Bushmills anymore.
I understand that, but I'm trying to make a point here to Barry, who's on a rant here.
You didn't build Bushmills either. You only worked for them.
I laid a basalt brick of the new distillery. I'll have you know, actually, I had some part of it.
Folks, what Lauren's trying to share is that if it wasn't for her tenuous and university-linked connections to Belfast, we would not have the experience we had that weekend. And so for that, we celebrate Queen's University and all it has to offer the city and its wonderful contribution over the last 200 years to the thriving youth and
delinquency. The only thing I will add is, I mean, you've got places like, look, again, I'm not going to say that Lauren's right, but she may have a point in there is things in Belfast to really, really celebrate. I mean,
no doubt.
What Willie Jack has created in the Cathedral Quarter is probably, I don't think of anywhere in the world that has something to resemble it. It is just a phenomenal place to be. It's the space that he's created in the Friend at Hand is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It's the only word for it. I think the tasting we had upstairs, God love Pirani, for 2 stacks. She got the end of the tail end of a very raucous day, and the people had free time to consume copious cocktails and pints and everything else in Belfast, in bootleggers and everywhere else. And then she had to try and bring order to us to try and give us a tasting. And Barry was guzzling, and I think guzzling is the only word, 2 stacks cream liqueur.
Pouring it. Helping himself.
Literally guzzling. That's all short of putting a teeth on the top of the bottle and just swinging it. I mean, guzzling is the word. But I mean, Belfast
I'm a supporter of Irish whiskey. I'm a supporter of 2 stacks. I'll do what I can. But like I said, no one's ever seen me drunk.
No. And the good part is the thing that I will say to anybody who wants to go to it, I mean, I hope the photos, or I hope that the content that was created, and there was some great content created that day, is
brilliant.
The 2 experiences in both Titanic and the Crumlin Road, they're going to be probably highlights for anybody who comes to Ireland to go and visit both of them. I mean, it's just going to be, they're fantastic places. And I think they're look, Sarah and Arisha in Titanic were just phenomenal.
They commanded the room, completely commanded the room. It was unbelievable to see. It was great to see them really shine in their passion for the brands they represent. Just to follow up on what you said, Anthony, about the Friend at Hand and the kind of sort of almost like a city within a city in the Cathedral Quarter that he has developed with his pubs like Harp Bar and Duke of York and Dark Horse. Barry, if you can name an institution like the Friend at Hand in Cork, I will take your abuse, but you're not going to be able to.
Lauren, all I'll say is thank you for building Belfast, for making it the city that it is, for establishing linen, shipbuilding and whiskey as the great exports from the north. I commend you. I raise a glass to you. I cannot be. You're right. You cannot be beaten. You built this thing.
So just to follow up on your point, I laid a brick in the Causeway Distillery, and I also tightened a bolt on the side of the Titanic.
We don't need to know about you laying bricks. That's your own business. So
Barry, no. What were you saying about you done what with the Titanic?
I tightened a bolt on the side of the ship.
She cracked the champagne over the bow of it, I'd say.
That'd be the one. That's why it sank. But I mean,
that's why it sank. It's my fault.
The champagne 2 stacks.
Right. Use children. The thing about it is, seeing the dry dock gives you an idea of how big Titanic was. And I mean, something that's, you can mention Titanic to anybody anywhere in the world and they know of it. So it really is fantastic to be able to showcase Belfast in that light. Yeah. And I think look, what they've done there in the Titanic distillery to tie it to the Titanic story and the pump house and everything else, I think is phenomenal. So look, it's yeah.
So look, can we move on? Like, right, you built Belfast. Like, can we move on now? I know there's the Lauren Quarter and the Lauren Fountain and the Lauren, like, okay, great. Lauren, like, it's the 3 of us here tonight, not just you.
You made her manager. You made her manager. That's it. You empowered her. That's it. I'm sorry.
Can everyone please understand why the 3 of us are not often on a live stream together? Yeah. Because I get dogs abuse.
No, you don't. I'm praising you here. I think.
What's this one here? So now, here we go again. Here, lads, would you ever tell me how brilliant I am? And put me up there in a picture flanked by a Tui, because aren't I great?
The Lauren Market. No, actually, that was the Common Market. It's not Common Lauren. It's the Lauren Market.
Okay, we will close out this shrine to Lauren tonight by focusing, or maybe just highlighting a particular highlight for Lauren, which was her hiring at Irish Whisky Experiences, and how much of a life-changing experience it was for Lauren to be surrounded by 2 accomplished icons of whiskey, by a 3-time icon of whiskey. Three times.
Yeah, here we go. Everything's been leading up to this. Here we go. Go on, Barry. Do a wee Instagram post with all your awards there while you're at it.
No, we'll leave that one. But I know self-praise is no praise, but look, Lauren, you've done great. You're brilliant. Anyway, we create Irish Whisky Experiences this year as a evolution of the Whiskey Bus. We put some manners to it, really, is what we're saying. It was no.
I'm sorry, Barry, I have to interrupt you there. There's no way you can describe what this is as manners.
This sham organization, loosely tied together by a vague constitution and laws, it's a company that it exists as some kind of shell to employ Lauren and keep her off the streets. So we've created this thing. It employs her. And for that, so all we can do is state the facts. We have created a company that employs Lauren, and that is a highlight of 2023.
Yeah. Have you anything to add to that, Lauren?
You can't leave it there now. You're all joking aside, right? All joking aside, you pair, as I've said from the get-go, are 2 people that I admire and respect greatly. And what you have achieved with Irish Whisky Experiences before I joined was a real turning point for Irish whisky tourism, which is a market, as we said earlier, that's very, very underdeveloped, virtually non-existent in Ireland. And it was an absolute, and it is an honor that both of you trusted me and believed in me enough to accept me into your mad world of ideas and experiences.
That's not how it happened.
Not really.
I begged you.
You begged and cajoled and bribed, and there was money, and there was I don't know what other services you were offering, but I mean,
and after we got through, the other six people said no. We said, all right.
You were last on the list. I mean, it was just, just
Richard has just described exactly how I feel right now. My two badly behaved big brothers.
Look, it was there was a lot of discussion and debating whether we would go ahead and make that higher. Ultimately, I lost out to Anthony. He said you should do it. I said, I don't know. I said, I'm not convinced. But Anthony said, look, we'll roll the dice. What's the worst that can happen? We lose a couple of months of wages and she'll be on the street, but that's her own business.
Not the end of the world,
yeah. Yeah. No skin off my back, said Anthony. And I said, you know what? No skin off my own. And we rolled the dice and sure, look, you're still here like a bad flu 7 months later.
I won't go away. Like Elton John's farewell tour. I won't leave.
Where you were going with that? I'll add to this. It's a pleasure to work with you, pair of idiots. Because I think it's what can happen when people come together. When people are, similarly, again, the theme for me tonight, it's all about Lauren in the middle. I like that, Barry. Well done. Go back to that. Lauren, the big picture. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
No.
You on the sideline, Barry. That's it. Yeah.
She did that herself there. She posted.
No. Look, I think it's exactly when people are passionate, what people can do. And I think it's great that we're together. And God knows what 2024 is going to be. It really is.
More of this times 10 and more crack. And may we get to enjoy it all together and have our health and be surrounded by nice people. And
well, if we can't be surrounded by nice people, can we just bring Lauren instead?
That's it. That's what we'll make do with. We'll make do with Lauren. And at some point during 2024, may we find our return on investment on Lauren.
Sorry, I'm literally crying laughing at Greg.
I don't think that's going to happen,
Lauren. Greg, that is no reflection of my salary. I just like to be comfortable when it is 2:30.
There's no way she could afford pajama bottoms in our salary anyway.
My stomach hurts so much from laughing. Oh my days.
Look,
I'm crying.
We've said a lot. It's been a big year for Irish whiskey. A bigger year to come, I hope. More success for the industry, more health for those who are enjoying the industry, who work in it, who participate in it. And I'd love to see more people in Ireland join us for the crack. I'd like to raise a glass with more people who up to now virtually have is all we can do. So look, come and join us. We'd love to see more of you. And in 2020, at the end of 2024, I hope our recap of 2024 is equally hurtful for Lauren and impactful on how much of a slagging we can give Lauren. But maybe by the end of 2024 we'll have a euro or two in the kitty for Irish whiskey experiences that we haven't paid Lauren. Maybe. Who knows?
I doubt it, Barry. I mean, I've been looking at the figures and
they don't add up. They don't add up.
No, they don't add up. Yeah.
By the time the VAT man gets his hands on things and Lauren gets her hands on things, we haven't a penny. But look, on we go. Again,
I think, Barry, you started this by saying let's do it for the crack.
I never knew how expensive.
No, hold on, Anthony. You said, sure, we'll try it and see if it works, and if it doesn't, we've got a barrel of laughs along the way.
We don't even have that. I thought he said a barrel of whiskey, so I was in.
Yeah, that's what Barry
does. Barrel of whiskey.
And I'm not enjoying this at all. Really, it is affecting my mental health. So no, I just no. I'm no.
Folks,
no.
For those who stuck around this late at night, I'm not sure why you're still here. This is not a produced performance. This is not rehearsed. I hope you're not here for anything other than a live figure it out as we go. But sure, look, here we are. This is what you pay for. If this isn't what you expect, you can ask for your money back. But it's as good as it's going to get. I'll give you that. It's as good as it's going to get.
Thankfully, they don't pay for this. that nothing is paid for this.
Okay. We need to work out how to monetize that. Then this is wrong. Then,
Lauren, have you a way to sign us out of the night? How would you send us off tonight?
How will we send us off? I think it has been, for me personally, anyway, one of the most exciting years in the industry for many reasons that we've mentioned, but also personally because of this new venture that I find myself on. For some reason, I don't know why I decided to join these two. But it's just so exciting, and I think we're only scratching the surface of what is possible and what we're going to see in terms of not just experiences, but releases, what distilleries are doing, events, everything around the industry. We're only getting started, and that makes me very, very, very excited at what is possible. And as always, it's great working alongside both of you. I couldn't honestly ask for a better team of people. It's the best crack. It's great fun. And
this is very awkward.
We then of the day.
Not for us, it's not.
This is starting to feel like the wrong time to introduce Lauren's replacement. Like this is not great. Yeah. This is starting to feel very
actually, Lauren, we've been meaning to talk to you about that.
I can't win.
We don't play it at all. Actually, it's not us. It's you. Yeah.
As you can tell, it's great crack. So I'm going to finish there. I don't know either of you want to add anything to this.
Can you believe she gets paid for this? Can anybody believe this? She gets paid for this. She's the only one of the three of us that actually gets paid for this thing.
Oh my days. Also, did anyone catch my sign falling off? Did anyone catch my sign falling off the back? I don't think they did. It scared the life out of me.
I heard that earlier. It was a big crash. Yeah.
It's not a bottle. The bottles are safe. This has been a night.
Folks, thank you for joining the Shebeen. I apologize for everything that's happened in the last 2.5 hours.
Normally, and again, I might add, I'm a bit disappointed because I normally expect a nice polished performance from the Shebeen. I mean, I know how professional you are. I think it's Lauren that's bringing you down, if the truth be known.
Do you remember the quality of them before, Lauren? Do you remember I'd have multimedia presentations?
Absolutely.
Lauren rocks up on a Sunday at 9 o'clock at night. She's like, any slides ready to go?
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. That's it.
Again.
But I suppose you get what you pay for. Here we are.
I definitely bring down Barry brings the professionalism, I bring the unprofessionalism, so gotta balance it out.
What do I bring to the party?
Dunville's t-shirt.
What was that? I missed it. What did he say?
What do I bring to the party? If Barry brings professionalism
I feel like you're more on my side with the unprofessionalism side of things due to our nature.
No, excuse me. I'm a professional businessman. I'm like a businessman, like, apparently.
Anthony brings the only Rolls Royce in Irish whiskey to the table. That's what Anthony brings.
Oh my days.
He's like, don't mention the Maybach. Don't mention the Rolls Royce. Folks, Lauren is going to host the last Shebeen of the year next week with a cocktail class and a cocktail demonstration for Christmas. And she's going to post the ingredients tomorrow. This is officially as Lauren's reminder to do that too, so that you might have them. Tomorrow, you're going to get the details of what's needed for the cocktail demonstration and class for our last Shebeen of the year. We'll take a few weeks off over Christmas, unless Lauren wants to host the thing on her own. I don't particularly care to be part of it over Christmas because I want to relax for a small bit and get energy back for the new year. But Lauren might, I don't know, she might fly the flag or she might decide to take a week or two off herself.
No, okay. I'm also off, yeah.
Okay. I'll do it.
Anthony will do it. He'll do it.
Anthony will do like a week of his whiskey grievances where he'll share.
And another thing. We'll
now move on to cheats and liars.
We said there's going to be a section at the start of every week that I just complained for 15 minutes.
True. Lauren's gripes. Yeah.
My gripes. Yeah. I have a lot of them.
Do you have a gripe to gripe us out with?
No, not this week. I'm feeling very festive and merry because it's Christmas, so I'm fine. I'm okay.
Folks, we'll leave it at that. It's 2:36 a.m. Irish time. Lauren will have a good sleep in the morning. Anthony and I will have a business to run, but we'll be up again next week for another Shebeen Sunday night, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for all your support in 2023, and we look forward to bringing you lots more crack and festivities and whiskey in 2024. We'll see you again next week. Everybody, sláinte, raise a glass to you all. Thanks to Lauren. Thanks to Anthony for joining us. Shine, sláinte.
Sláinte, everyone. Thank you.